name is Keenan. We don't have Kyle. Kyle actually just did a pod with his friend Brandon Petty, who we're going to have on the pod again with all of us. But I get to introduce to you the guy who's going to knock Kyle's lights out. Hello, it is Austin. Austin, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. I've honestly been excited for this exact moment for like 2 months.
It's been a lot of planning.
Yeah, we've had a lot of planning. I mean, we're basically going to do what we normally do, playing Madden, just video so other people can see it. It's pretty cool. But essentially, yes. But essentially, so what this is going to be is we are going to go through in-depth fantasy football. So we're going to have our top 25 QBs, top 50 running backs, top 60 wide receivers, top 25 tight ends, top 20 to 25 defenses, and top 20 kickers, which I know no one actually cares about. But we're going to go through why we have these players, where we have these players, why maybe Mahomes or Allen's ahead of Lamar or whatever we have. And then from there, we'll ask some draft kind of strategy questions rather than going through the entirety of, like, this is my number one pick, this is number two, this is number three, because every draft is going to be different. So, but strategies you can kind of take into the same draft for the most part, depending on who you are. Like, Austin and I are in multiple leagues together. Our draft strategy for our league with all of our high school friends is completely different from the one that we have with his family. So,
very true.
Very true. But without further ado, top 25 QBs fantasy. This is all fantasy ranked. Top 25 QBs going into this 2023 fantasy season. Austin, what's your top five?
My top five is, of course, Patrick Mahomes at number one.
Yeah.
And then I got Josh Allen.
Okay.
Number three is Jalen Hurts.
Okay.
Number four, Joe Burrow. And then Lamar Jackson.
Okay. I very much like that list. It's hard to not explain. Did you think about possibly having Josh Allen lower than like Hurts, or maybe Lamar higher at all?
I thought about it, but like looking at his running numbers every year, he always ends up really high just because of those.
Yeah. I would say his numbers running wise are ridiculous because his usage rate of like NBA usage rate, it's like his would be like a 38 to 39%. Like his usage rate is insane.
Yeah, he runs the ball some games more than they run running backs.
Yeah, it's Josh Allen is like an offense to himself. I was watching this other podcast. I'm actually curious just to think, do you think that Josh Allen's better than Joe Burrow as a QB?
I think when it comes to the QB, no.
Obviously, fantasy, I would say yes, but QB, no. I know someone was making the argument on that other podcast. I can't remember what it was. I think it was Nerd Sesh on the volume. But he was making the argument because Josh Allen's a offense to himself, that he was better than Joe Burrow, and it wasn't particularly close. Like, it was Patrick Mahomes a clear one, Josh a clear two, which I had problems with. I'm a Joe Burrow guy, 1, but 2, I had problems with.
Yeah, I think Josh Allen's, like, physical gifts is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But, like, when it comes to the quarterback position, Joe Burrow just plays it at a higher level.
Yeah, like, he just makes the better decisions. Like, Russell Westbrook's a more gifted athlete, but say Chris Paul, who's not as gifted as an athlete, just plays the point guard position at a higher, like peak Chris Paul plays it at a higher level than Westbrook.
Right.
But in comparison, my list is pretty much the same as yours. I have Patrick Mahomes 1, Josh Allen 2. I have Joe Burrow 3, which I've been debating on switching since his calf injury. I kept it the same, but it's willing to shift. I have Hurts 4 and Lamar 5. And the reason why I had Burrow 3 instead of Hurts is because I thought Burrow, going into the season, it was going to be his first full year of camp where there was no injury, there was no anything, because last year he had the appendix, year before obviously coming off the massive broken leg, and then the first year he's a rookie. So, like, comfortable in the league. The first year he's actually going to have a full camp. He was excited the first time have a full camp. And the calf thing happens. And I thought that he was poised to go out and win MVP. He was going to be my preseason pick. That still may reign true. Don't know yet.
Is
So
he supposed to miss any time?
they don't have him missing time at the moment. They just said he's going to be sidelined for several weeks, but several weeks still could be before the season starts.
Right.
So pretty much, I know people were speculating. I think Schefter was speculating that he's not going to step on the field again until he has his new contract, which has not been reported out of Cincinnati at all. So we'll see what it is, and it is what it is. But I'm very interested to see going forward. But I think he's going to be fine. I really do, and I'm leaning still him MVP, but that calf strain like takes away a little bit of the reasoning why.
Yeah,
But
I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, I don't think he's a problem. Like after game 1 where he threw the 4 picks, he threw like 7 or 8 picks for the remainder of the season. Like
Yeah.
he was clean for the rest of the season, had a regular quarterback season after week 1. But all right, so our 5's the same because that's kind of almost consensus. So the next part, which is interesting, what's your 6 to 10?
6 to 10 is Trevor Lawrence.
Yep.
Then I have Justin Herbert. At
Yep.
8, I have Justin Fields.
Okay.
9 is Tua.
Yep.
And then 10, I have Dak Prescott.
Okay. And so I have 2 questions there. One, I know there's been a huge craze on Justin Fields this year. Like going into it, people feel like he's following the Josh Allen mold where it's a shaky year 1, year 2 showing flashes, gets a new kind of offense, that number 1 receiver. Obviously, Allen got Diggs, he's got DJ Moore, and then year 3 kind of explodes. Why do you only have him at 8?
I have him at 8 just because I do like him as a player. I've liked him since his college days. But in the NFL,
you used to talk to me in high school.
Yeah.
Him in high school. You were a huge fan.
He was a baller. But he hasn't showed in the NFL that he can be a consistent passer.
Yeah.
I think rushing-wise, he's going to put up great numbers just like Lamar.
Mm-hmm.
But I think passing-wise, like I do think DJ Moore will help. But I don't know about the other guys he has. Like I do like Darnell Mooney. I liked him before, but he still has to show stuff. Chase Claypool, since his rookie year, hasn't done anything.
No.
So I think that he's 8. I know some people have him higher, but it's because he's just got to prove that he can pass more, and I'm not so sure he will do it this year.
That's fair. I think there's like the talent's there, but his like arm has been much to be desired. Like Mooney's obviously a deep threat. It's how often is he going to connect on those deep routes? You've got DJ Moore, which is nice because he can run routes. You can get him underneath. You can also obviously get over the top too, like that. The PJ Walker 62-yard bomb last year to DJ Walker, which was nuts. But you know they're definitely poised. They've upgraded on the offensive line a little bit, so their offensive line is not abysmal any longer. It's not like it's great. Don't get me wrong, it's not great. But last year it was horrendous. I think they've admitted to themselves that Justin Fields is their guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and so like when teams admit that to themselves, like they go through and they're like, okay, this is our guy. We're going to go and build around him. So they're starting to build the line. They're building that. So I get it. I'm a little different than you when it comes to my 6 to 10. I have Herbert then Lawrence. So I have Herbert at 6. I have Trevor Lawrence 7. I think they're interchangeable. Like I did their calculated points. I think Justin Herbert gets around 335 and Trevor Lawrence gets 328. So like that's literally a touchdown and 50 yards that could switch them. So it's not like it's a crazy 150-yard bomb can make Trevor Lawrence a better quarterback this year fantasy wise.
I agree. I think they'll be very close.
I think they're going to be very close. You've got Trevor Lawrence, who's got his new Calvin Ridley guy, who's got a toe injury, who's a little bit in camp. I've noticed a lot of stars in camp have so far been getting banged up, but we'll talk about Calvin Ridley later. You obviously got Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Travis Etienne, good offensive line. So they're poised to cook this year, especially in arguably the worst division in football outside of them.
Yes.
But
Talking
my
about
8. Well,
talking about like year 3 guys that blow up, I think Trevor Lawrence. He really showed flashes at the end of last year, and I think this will be the year that he
yeah.
blows up.
Yeah, I was gonna say you've seen it with multiple quarterbacks where they really get like their second full year in a system, third year starter, like second or third year, you really see guys blow up. And so my 8, it might be early and it might be a little much. My 8's Deshaun Watson. So before him and his misogynistic ways, pun intended, his crazy ways, before he was dunking on Mia Khalifa, uh, before that he was top 3 in the league. Like it was Mahomes, it was top 4 in the league. It was Mahomes, it was Rodgers, it was Brady, it was Deshaun Watson. Whatever order you really wanted to put it in, you could argue me other places. Like Deshaun and Mahomes were close. Don't let anyone forget, like let you forget that. I don't care what anybody says. I know people have this Mahomes craze and people don't like to remember what happened years ago. But Deshaun with a terrible Texans team that went 4-12 was still 34 touchdowns to 8 picks. Like let's not, like this guy is amazing. This is a guy who went against Alabama and was 1 yard away from beating them consecutive years in the, like this guy can ball. So I think last year I didn't think he was going to be great because he was coming off of not playing football for a while. He's now got a full train. He couldn't train or anything. I mean, he could train himself, but he couldn't train with the team. He couldn't really be on facilities all that often. So now, full year, read reports that he's getting a very good grasp on the offense. Things are going well in camp thus far. I think that he is poised to get back to what Deshaun Watson is. And I could be dead wrong. I think he's going to rank 8, but I think he could be one of the biggest steals in the draft because I don't think many people have that take.
I do agree with that. I think he could be a steal. I just have him slightly lower just because he came back last year and never just really showed that he was the same guy. But I do agree. I think having another year, a whole off season with the team, and having actually played a few games with them, that he could come back and have a better season.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because, like, he could go the opposite way. It really could be one of those situations because when people don't play for a while, it could go the opposite way. Like Mike Vick had that really good year with Philly after he left for his incident. Cool, but like he had some years too. Like it was not like all great. So I mean, the good thing with Deshaun is he's still really young. I can't remember his age offhand. Give me just a sec. 27 years old. So he's still 27. He's not even 30, not even close to 30. So I think that Deshaun's going to bounce back this year in a major way. I could be completely wrong. I got Justin Fields at 9. I share a lot of the same sentiments as you. I think he'll probably run for close to over, if not over 1,000 yards this season again. I think he's just too electric not to. And he's so young right now that he's not, like Lamar had this chip on his shoulder where he's like, I'm going to show people I can pass. So he like, and Lamar is much like more poised in the pocket. He still needs to work on throwing outside the numbers, but he's definitely more poised. You can tell in the pocket, but he's like, because people said out of the draft, like you should go to wide receiver. You should go to running back. Like he's like, I can't catch. I can't be a wide receiver. So he's been like adamant on showing people like I can pass. Fields was never looked at like that. Like Fields was always looked at like, yeah, no, he's a quarterback.
He was always a top prospect everywhere he was.
Everywhere he went, he was a top guy. I mean, he went to one of the top schools in the country, obviously Ohio State. So, and he balled out.
He balled out.
He balled all the way out. So, like with him, I think that he's fine with running, and it's just however he can get the team. So I think the running's still going to be there. I don't know if he throws over 3,000 yards. That's the issue. If you get him to 35, 3,600, and you can get him to 25 plus touchdowns, he's top 5 easy. I don't know he gets there. I just don't think he gets there. Like, you can't, like, his stats so far in his career, he threw for 1,870 his rookie year, and then he threw for 2,200 last year. He's going to throw for 1,300 more yards just because of DJ Moore. Okay, I mean, if DJ Moore is that, I guess, but like, I don't think that he's going to make that high of a jump, even though I think he's going to be he's really good. I think that you can't go wrong with him. And then at 10, I have Dak too. So I think he's too consistent to not be a top 10 fantasy quarterback.
And they added an addition at wide receiver, which should help him.
Yeah. One of the most underrated players in the league, Brandon Cooks, I think he's at 1,000 with 5 teams, which is nuts. Because there's the Rams, the Patriots, the Saints, the Texans, and
now the Cowboys.
And it's gonna probably be the Cowboys. I thought it was 5, but it might have been 4. It might have been 4, but anyways, regardless, it must gonna be 5 probably.
He's been just a super consistent guy.
Yeah.
And I think he's still got it just with the Texans. They didn't really have much last year. I think he'll help Dak a lot.
Yes. I think you have CD who can go over the top, but Brandon Cooks is a real deep threat. Mm-hmm. So you got Michael Gallup, who's the 50-50 guy. You've got CD, who's kind of the everything guy. And then you got the true deep threat over the top, especially replacing Dalton Schultz. I mean, obviously Dalton Schultz is not your deep threat, but replacing the hands and the usage of Dalton Schultz, I think that's going to be good for them. But 11 to go 11 to 15, and then we'll go from 15 on.
So I have Deshaun Watson at 11.
Okay.
Number 12, I do have Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
And I think Aaron Rodgers, from what I have seen, I think he's a man on a mission.
Yeah, we know he's a Packers fan. We can see that in the background. But of course. I mean, I think Aaron is poised to have a great season too. But go on.
I think he could end up being a top 10, top 5 fantasy QB. But I have him 12 just because he's on a new team now.
Mm-hmm.
The Jets, like, they have pretty solid weapons, but still, like, they took guys over from Green Bay. Green Bay last year was not the greatest offensive team.
Yeah.
So he's 12. I have Kirk Cousins at 13.
Yep.
I've noticed there's a lot of people who have him lower, but Kirk Cousins just year in and year out over the last like 3 seasons has been like 10. He like finishes 10 every time. And I think this year their defense I think is going to be worse than what it has been. And they're going to have to pass even more. And I think that's going to make his stats have to be better. He might throw more picks.
Yeah.
But Addison, I think that
Jefferson, Hawkinson, Osborne, they've got weapons. Offensively, they got weapons.
Yes, they do. 14, I have Daniel Jones. He's a lot of him. I'm not so big on him as a QB, but he does run.
Yeah.
So he's at 14.
It literally changes the game.
And then 15, I have Geno Smith. I was actually shocked to see Geno Smith finish as like a top 5 QB last year.
Yeah, no, Geno did what we thought he was going to kind of be out of college.
Yes.
Like out of college, he had the poise, confidence. I didn't think he was going to be like a superstar by any means, but I did think he was not going to just be a journeyman. And I'm glad for him that he's turned himself into a legitimate starting quarterback. It just like looking at the Broncos trade now, the Seahawks ran with it. Because if from this point forward, Geno Smith is better than Russell Wilson, which, again, last year he was, and at least in fantasy terms, you and I both think he's going to be better than Russell Wilson this year. They got all of that, plus the better quarterback. Okay, like, we might look back in 3 years and think to ourselves, this might be the biggest like trade in NFL history, like trade rape in NFL history, which is crazy.
And I think them adding Jackson Smith and Jigba
Yeah.
I think that's just another great weapon for Geno.
Yes. They got someone there to go along with Lockett, to go along with Metcalf, to go along with Noah Fant. Kenneth Walker last year ran possessed. Rashad Penny for the first 2 games ran possessed, and then he went down, and then Kenneth Walker was like, he's doing that. Okay, I'm going to show out. So then now Penny is with Philly, and Philly's nasty as a team. Like, their fantasy wise, they're going to be interesting, but as like an actual football team, they're nasty. But
yeah, they are.
Okay, so my 11 through 15. 11 has an asterisk. It's Kyler Murray. If you're giving me a full Kyler Murray season front to back, no injury, I think he's around 11. This is subject to change clearly if he doesn't start the season. But my asterisk is around Kyler Murray with that 11.
I did not put Kyler on my list just for the fact he will be on there if he is going to play week 1.
Fair
But
enough.
for right now, he is not on my list just for the fact of he could miss like 6 to like 8 weeks of the season.
Yeah, so I didn't have him on my list, and I was reading reports that it was like he might be back for week 1, and I was like, just because of the might, I'm gonna throw him in there. Like, hopefully, there's not too much Call of Duty going on with him, so he can get in. I think that narrative's hilarious, but
Well,
so
now that he's hurt, he might be playing even more Call.
I was gonna say he might be grinding. Like, we don't know. Kyler is probably grinding, especially because like, he couldn't use his legs, he couldn't work out,
Right?
so he was grinding in Call of Duty. But so my 11 is Kyler, my 12 is Aaron Rodgers. So I think that Aaron Rodgers could have a top 5 quarterback season with only being 11-12 in fantasy. Like, I have him slotted around close to 4,000 yards, 35 touchdowns to 6 picks. Like, that's an amazing.
I could see that.
That's a great season. That, like, if he turns the Jets and made him 13-4, like, that's an MVP conversation, depending on what other quarterbacks are doing. So, like, a top 5 quarterback season, but the fact that he might not get 150 yards rushing because, like, at this point in his career, he's just chilling, and he doesn't throw for so many yards. I think that fantasy-wise, he could be back. But again, it's Rodgers. He could be out to prove a point and try to go 40-plus again touchdown-wise, and that would just jolt him up into that top 5. Because, like, he's not far behind Fields, Dak. Like, he's 4 points from being 10th. He's 20 points for me from being 9th. So, like, once he's in, like, so it's not like it's crazy. That's 4 touchdowns more. Like, if he balls out, gets 4 or 5 touchdowns more, that puts him top 7. So I got Rodgers there. I then got Tua at 13. Tua, again, I think he's going to have a really good year too. I just think it's just the rushing of and how important that is in fantasy changes the conversation because, like, I have him slotted around 4,400 yards, 32 touchdowns, around 12, 13 picks. That's a very good season. So, like, I think he's going to play well. I think any narrative of him not being a great quarterback just needs to go. Like, he's not like a top 5 level quarterback, but you can't really tell me there's like what's the difference between him and Kyler for the most part. They're both injury prone people. Kyler's more electric, but again, Justin Herbert and Josh Allen are more electric than Joe Burrow. That doesn't make them better. So
I have Tua in my top 10, and just for the fact last year he finished like 13th in one of my leagues, and he missed quite a few games.
Yes,
like his averages was pretty high. It was up there. Like at one point, it was for the MVP of the league. It was like him. It was Mahomes, Hurts, and him.
Yeah, no, he was definitely in that short list, and then I would have put at that point Saquon was close. I think like if you're looking
balling at that time,
different positions, Saquon was balling out at that point, and that was when the Giants were like 7-0 too. So like, no, for a real point, like for at least, I mean, Tua was even longer for like at least half the season, he was in the top 5 easy MVP conversation. So
he's just got to stay healthy.
Yep, just got to stay healthy, and then people can put respect on his name. I got Daniel Jones 14. He's not throwing many touchdowns this season like he didn't last year. I think Brian Daboll's been great for him, so I think that the picks are going to be down. You saw it with Josh Allen; the picks were down and the turnovers were down. 1 year with Daboll, because I think he just takes the ball out of his hands for making stupid mistakes. Picks will be down, fumbles will be down, so he's not going to turn it over much. It's not going to be many touchdowns, but he's going to have the rushing numbers to help him. So I got him 14, and then I also have Geno 15. I think Geno's again poised to have another quality season. He's one of those quarterbacks that if you are a person who likes to really load up on backs and receivers, you can get Geno late, and I think it doesn't hurt you in comparison to like Trevor Lawrence to Geno. I don't think it kills you. Obviously, Lawrence is we clearly have him top 7 for both of us, but Geno to Lawrence isn't terrible, or Dak to Geno's not terrible at all. Like, you don't have to reach to get Dak if you want to get, say, 5th round, maybe sneaking I don't know. Let's look. Maybe if you could get a Dameon Pierce 5th round, and you're like, okay, I can sneak that in instead of getting Dak, and I can get Geno in the 7th. Cool. So that's my top. That's my 15, and then.
And I think Geno would be higher on the list if it wasn't for the fact that last year was his first year of really blowing up, like really doing well.
Yeah, so people, when they get the tape on you, so it's going to be interesting to see these quarterbacks like Jalen Hurts. They now have a full tape on him being great. Let's see how I don't have any problems. I don't think he's going to be bad, but let's see how he adjusts. Like, we saw how Lamar adjusted, and he took a step back from his MVP season because people got the tape on him, people got the drop on him. Like, okay, we know how this is his weakness, this is his weakness. You spend all summer studying tape. So, but you go 16 to 25 now. Just breeze through these losers.
What?
They're not losers at all.
What you were saying about like the tape, that is why I have Jared Goff at number 16.
Mm-hmm.
He's a guy that he has shown, like he showed on the Rams. He had some couple seasons where he did really well, but then he does not so well.
Yep.
And I think with the Lions, their offense had a season where they blew up, but I think now that people have tape on them, that it could change a lot for them.
Yeah.
And I could see Jared Goff kind of going back to where he was before, and maybe he'd still be pretty solid, but I don't know if he'll be a top 10 guy like he was last year.
Yep.
Number 17, I'm conflicted on Russell Wilson. Because if Sean Payton is as good as everyone likes to say he is, I think Russell Wilson could come back to form.
Yep.
And they do have weapons, although they did lose Tim Patrick the other day to an Achilles tear.
That's tough for him, man.
He's had so many injuries.
Man, that's like Klay Thompson. Like, he just out for the season, trying to come back, and then out for the season. That's tough, man.
It is tough.
That is tough.
But yeah, so I think Russell could come back and do better with Sean Payton, but at the same time, he just did not look good last year. Like, his decision making, like he wouldn't even take off and run. Like, there was so many times. Yeah. There were so many times where old Russ would have just took off and run, and he just didn't do that anymore. So he's at 17 for those reasons.
Yep.
18 is Kenny Pickett.
Okay.
I like their offense is a little bit better. Their wide receivers are good.
Yep.
I think he could have a good year.
I agree.
Then the rest of them, I have Derek Carr 19, Matthew Stafford 20. Stafford's an interesting guy. I'm curious to see how he comes back from his injury.
Yeah.
And he didn't look so good when he did play last year.
No. And he didn't look great at the end of their Super Bowl run. He put together drives. Like, credit to him. He put together the drive against the Bucs. Obviously, Winfield, they blew the coverage, but he made the throw. Beautiful throw to Kupp. They got it. They kicked the field goal. And then that last drive against the Bengals to get to win the Super Bowl, I mean, he found Kupp every play. And listen, if he's going to be open, find him. But he made every throw. So he put together some drives. It just, like, towards the end of the season, especially in the regular season, he was pick city. Like, all right, take it. I didn't want the ball anyway.
Yeah, I think last year he either had like 10 touchdowns to 9 picks, or is like 9 touchdowns to 10 picks.
Yeah, no, he wasn't. He was not great last year.
He was not good last year. I
10
think
to
they're
8.
10 to 8. I think they're a team that I think they could be bad.
And that's the price that they paid for that Super Bowl. We've talked about it before. If they didn't win the Super Bowl, this would be looking crazy.
Yes,
I think they have the potential to be like Sean McVay might be able to muster up something a little good, and like they might be like a team that fights. They have to be happy that the NFC sucks. Like the NFC is not like talent wise, it's not great. They're gonna play tough football, obviously, but like
the NFC just has a couple like powerhouse teams, and then the rest are just we don't know.
There really are. Like there's a world where the Falcons could make the playoffs, and I'm like, okay. But there's a world you could tell me they have the worst record in the league, and I'm like, Desmond Ridder didn't pan out. Okay, like, that's really what happened. Like you could tell me both. Like okay.
So number 21, I have Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yep.
22, I have Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who have him higher.
Yep.
And I just don't like him even coming out of college.
Mm-hmm.
He did not show that he can like pass the ball very well. I do think that he maybe could be useful because of his rushing.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm just not high on him at all, so I have him 22. But I do have him higher than like some of these other guys that aren't so proven as well, just because he is a good runner.
Yeah.
So then 23, I have Jordan Love.
Okay.
24, I have Bryce Young.
Yep.
And then 25, I have Brock Purdy right now. It's really whoever ends up starting for the Niners. I think it'll be Purdy. I think their offense is just so loaded that whoever the starter is, they're gonna do good because of that. They have the great offensive line. They have all the weapons with Debo, Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle. Like you're gonna put up some points.
Yeah, you naturally will. And I agree with. I agree. The only person I have in is I don't have the 49ers quarterback, and I have Bryce Young in mind. But other than that, every person you have in, I have in roughly the same order. So 16, I have Pickett. I think. Did you see the sidebar? Did you see the catch Pickens had yesterday?
Yes, I did. He makes the craziest catches.
That's crazy. So like you have this guy who's going to make spectacular catches whenever he wants to, and then you got Deontay Johnson, who's one of the most overlooked receivers in the league. Great route runner, great hands, like just he's like a great security blanket. But they already have a great security blanket in Pat Freiermuth. They've got Najee Harris, who, when we get into running backs, we can talk about him more. I think people hate on him a little too much.
They also added Allen Robinson, which he hasn't been very good, but I think as like a number 3 receiver and being a veteran, he could still come in and help.
Yeah, he knows how to play football. He's been in the league before, and I think someone like Allen Robinson, it's not as much of like you need him 800 yards, 900. It's more so like 40 catches, 400 yards, a couple touchdowns, like key third down catches. Yes. Like the keep the drive alive catches, like I just know how to win my matchup from this play. That's what you kind of get him for. So I agree. I think the Steelers are a very interesting team, and they could easily sneak into a wild card spot. I think their division's too loaded for them to win it. Then I got Kirk 17, and I know you have him at 13. I have him like the difference between Kirk at 17 to say 13 is like 15 points. Like because I calculated the points for quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. It's not much. Like I think the middle crop is pretty close. Where you can kind of pick and choose. I do know what you're saying about Kirk. He's so consistent. I just think that I have him a little lower because I agree with you. Their defense is not good in Minnesota. The close games that they were in last year, they're not going to win all of them again. They won like 12 or 11 close games last year, which is crazy. But that's going to cause for him to throw more, which is going to cause for them to throw more picks. And then since they won the division, they play all the division winners, and they're going to have a little tougher schedule than they did the year before. So it's going to be, I have him taking a little step back, but again, he's just a consistently good quarterback, so it's hard to have him low. Russell Wilson is in my 18. I think he's not going to have a great fantasy season, but I think he's going to have a good season. Like 26 touchdowns to 8 picks, makes the right plays. I see, especially if he's not willing to run, I see Sean Payton using him the same way they used Drew Brees the last couple of years, where it was, we're going to stretch it down the field when we have to. Not all the time. They got Samaje Perine, who is a great receiving back. Did very well for Cincinnati. You've got Javonte Williams coming back. That's going to be your Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram-ish style backfield. Nothing saying it's the same. You've got weapons on the outside. Jerry Jeudy can stretch a defense, but Cortland Sutton, good player, just a good receiver. I can't pronounce their tight end's name because no, they just have Dolce right now. I can't pronounce. This other guy I cannot pronounce.
Greg, I don't know how to say it. It's like Dulcich, I think.
Dulcich, yeah. And then the other guy, Olga Blugum.
Yeah, Albert. I just call him Albert.
I was going to say Al. Big Al.
Yeah.
Aloe. Like, put him on your skin, refreshing, good old aloe. Like, I'm not giving his name out. Cannot do that. But I think Russell Wilson's going to have a good quarterback season. I don't think he's going to have a great fantasy season. Anthony Richardson's my 19. I think they basically said, hey, Philly, we're going to try the reiteration of you guys again. Before they're like, yo, we're going to get Frank Reich, and then we'll take Carson Wentz, and then we'll try to run it your way that you did before when you guys went to the Super Bowl and won it. And then, okay, you went to the Super Bowl and lost, so this year, you know what we'll do? We'll go get Shane Steichen, we'll go get Jim Bob Cooter, who both were there in Philly. Both guys are run kind of guys. We're just going to basically say, hey, we'll just make him Jalen Hurts. I think they're going to have the clearance Walmart version of Jalen Hurts, which is why it's going to be like 19. They're going to have a guy who's going to run pretty well, be able to stretch the field a touch, not throw well. So that's why I have him at 19.
He does have a cannon. His accuracy is just not there.
It's Cam. Like, really, I said Jalen Hurts, but he reminds you of Cam. Where Cam was always he had 2 seasons over 60% completion percentage, I believe. Like, Cam always was, but when Cam needed to throw a laser, it was a bomb or a laser wherever it needed to be, and he could run like he was a brick. So he ran great. So his MVP season was crazy, but like overall as a QB, he wasn't like the greatest thrower of the ball, but his athleticism made up for all of that when he was at peak Cam. I got Jared Goff at 20. I think he takes a little step back too. I think he's still going to be good. I do like Jared Goff. I always have. I think he's always just the knock on him has really just been against the blitz. He's not great when he's not blitzed. He's great. Bryce Young, I've got at 21. I think he's poised to have a good season. I think he'll win Rookie of the Year. I think he'll have I think Richardson's going to have a better fantasy year just because of the running alone, but Bryce Young's going to play a better quarterback season. Derek Carr, I've got at 22. I like him, don't love him. Matt Stafford, I got at 23. These guys are low too because they don't run whatsoever. So like when they get 30 touchdowns comparatively to the other guys, we're going to get 34 touchdowns plus they're going to add the running. That's where you're going to get the difference. Jimmy G's 24 for me and Jordan Love is 25, and that rounds out everything. And these guys at the bottom could shift up, but I don't.
You could take some out. You could put new guys in. You can shuffle them. It doesn't really matter.
I don't think anybody like these guys late are going to be my quarterback's on a bye week. I only have one QB. These guys are left in free agency, and you're like, oh, Jimmy G is playing. I like the Texans even. Jimmy G is playing, I don't know, the Falcons. I like the Falcons defense a little bit too. I don't even know. They're just not playing a good team. They're not playing a good team. They're playing the Bears. Bears defense is not great. They're playing the Bears, and it's like, okay, we can throw Jimmy G in this week. But yeah, so that's kind of where I have them. But again, the bottom's the bottom.
Yeah, those are guys you draft if you drafted like a top 5 QB. You're just like, you wait till the end of the draft and you're like, we'll take whatever I think will do better.
Yeah, you look at the bye week, you look at the matchup, you're like, okay, this is a good matchup as of right now. Bye week, we're gonna snatch this guy up. Or you take someone like Anthony Richardson, who has the potential to be someone who could be borderline-ish top 12. Like if he really can throw, like we just don't know, like he's throwing well, and then he's running like we expect it, like he can, and he becomes in that top like Daniel Jones kind of style where you can like, okay, I can play him this week because he has a good matchup, that kind of thing.
But a guy I almost put on my list,
yep,
but it was tough, is Baker Mayfield. I think it's tough. I think the Buccaneers' offensive line is still really good.
Baker.
Their offensive line is still really good.
Yeah,
they were just hurt last year, and then they have the weapons.
Yes,
for him to succeed, and he did look pretty good on the Rams last year, and he had no one to work with.
Yep.
So I think he was interesting. I'm just not 100% sold on it, so he's not on there right now. But he's a guy maybe you look at late in the draft, and you're like, well, I don't want like Jordan Love. I'll go with Baker instead.
Yeah, no, these are the bottom from like 17, 18 on is really like second part of the draft where you're like, okay, I don't know what I want. Like, I'm going to just grab this guy because he could be good. And then, like, if I do need him, or if you need to throw him in like say a quarterback gets injured, there's nothing in free agency, and Baker's playing top 19 football, you can throw him in a trade and someone feels like, okay, I'm a little comfortable with that comparatively to what I do have. So it's definitely interesting. But yeah, quarterbacks, we have pretty much the same top 10. You have Tua in it, I have Deshaun in it, but otherwise we have the same crop of guys in the top 10. We'll move on to the more interesting running backs, where I think we're going to have more variance in what we have here. I think I'm interested to see like your list in full. I've heard a little bit of it, but I'm interested to see in full. So go with your top 5 running back guys.
At number 1, I have Austin Eckler.
Okay. And you want to know what's really funny? I want to mention real quick before you go on with the whys. Austin Eckler is somebody who going into last year, you and I were both down on, because we were like, is he gonna get touchdowns again? Like, what really made him great was like the catching and the touchdowns. Mm-hmm. So like, is he gonna be able to get all those touchdowns again? And then he got all those touchdowns again. And then assuming he's not this year is just you're trying to hate. Also, just a little disclaimer. Everything, it didn't really matter for QBs. Everything going forward, we did on a half PPR basis. So, like, our lists are based off of half PPR because some people don't do it. Some people do full point, which I think is crazy, honestly. When I go full point, I think it's too much. It's insane. I think half PPR should be almost a standard at this point. But, yeah.
Yeah, I have them. It was between, so my number 2 is McCaffrey, Christian McCaffrey.
Yep.
I chose Eckler above him just for the fact that like McCaffrey does get hurt more.
Yes.
And then like Eckler had 107 catches last year, and he gets a lot of touchdowns. Like you said, like we thought last year it would be down, and it just wasn't.
It was
so I have him.
Year.
Yeah, it was crazy. So I have him my number 1, McCaffrey 2. Number 3, I have Jonathan Taylor. And there's a lot of stuff going on.
I was about to say, does that change your mind at all a little bit or no?
Until something happens, it's going to stay the same. Because he's been there, like unless he holds out or something crazy happens, he'll be my number 3. And I think he has a bounce back year. He was hurt a little bit, but
I don't think I don't think that sitting out really benefits him. And I don't think
not.
Because, like, what are you going to do? No one's... Again, we saw what happened with Lev Bell when he got paid again, but, like, we saw the Lev Bell experience and how it didn't work out. So I just don't see why you sit out at this point. Like, a QB like Lamar could sit out, and that's going to affect your entire roster. Jonathan Taylor could sit out, and yes, it's going to affect how you do. But again, you could get someone who does 80% of what Jonathan Taylor can do, and you're not going to lose the world. It's an
Right.
easier replacement than losing Lamar Jackson if he was to hold out, or
That's a
Justin
lot of
Herbert if he wanted to hold out.
it's a lot of the reason why the running back market is crappy right now.
Yeah.
I agree. I think sitting out would hurt him, especially as a running back. You're more limited on your years of play.
Yes.
A lot of wear and tear, and someone like Jonathan Taylor did get used a lot in college.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he will end up playing, and I think like what you were saying about Anthony Richardson, they're gonna try to do an offense similar to the Eagles.
Yeah.
So they're gonna run the ball,
Yes.
and they're gonna use Jonathan Taylor is great, so they're gonna use him.
Yeah.
My number 4, I have Derrick Henry.
Yep. Oh.
That man is just
Ooh.
consistent.
I don't even hate that, but ooh, okay. I know that's high for people because obviously when you're old, people like to write your eulogy early. So it's like, okay, how old? When is it going to be done for him? And he just every year, just
every
clockwork.
year. I think what helps him is like he didn't get used as much in college. He only had that 1 year because at Alabama, they always have wicked good running backs.
They're 1 year
so
running
you kind of
backs.
sit a year, and then or sit a couple years, and then he got used.
They're 1 year running backs. It's like your freshman year, you sit behind two people. Your sophomore year, you're gonna run some. Your junior year, you're the bell cow. You're gonna blow up, and then you're gonna go high in the draft. That's just how their system goes. It's how it's been forever. Roll Tide.
So he's 4, and then 5, I have Bijan Robinson.
Okay. I was interested to see where you're gonna have Bijan. Why at 5? I know some people have him around the 3 to 6 range. Why 5?
5, I didn't want to put him over Taylor or Henry. I feel like those guys have just Taylor actually is like a really good catcher too. Yes. And I think he'll get used a lot because they're going to need him. And then Henry's just so consistent. So it's like I'm going to have him above, but Bijan I do like a lot. I think the only thing that scares me is like Tyler Algier last year as a rookie ran for over 1,000 yards. And he averaged 5 yards a carry. And I feel like they're still going to use him. But like, have you seen the videos of Bijan in practice? Like running routes?
He's scary.
he's just running insane routes, like killing corners and stuff. And
he's scary.
He made like a crazy like one-handed catch the other day. I think he'll get used. And last year, the Falcons had one of the best rushing offenses in the league.
Yeah, I think it was maybe the best.
I think it might have been.
And they might use him semi like they used Cordero Patterson when Cordero Patterson was balling out. Like obviously not as much wide receiver, but like.
And what people I think forget is Arthur Smith, the head coach.
Yep.
He was the offensive coordinator for Tennessee, and they used Derrick Henry. And I could see them looking at Bijan and using him a lot. The only thing that does worry me is the fact that like they have Tyler Algier.
Yes.
So I don't think he'll get like 350 carries like Derrick Henry, but I think he'll get a lot. Yeah, and they'll use him more in the pass game.
Yeah. So I have a similar-ish list, kinda. So half PPR is in mind. I have Christian McCaffrey 1, Eckler 2. Those guys are interchangeable to me. If you have Eckler 1, that's just who you have. I think if both of them play all season, every game, I would lean Christian McCaffrey. Austin Eckler's the more likely bet to play all games, all 17 games. So if you go either way, that's fine. I think those got to be your top 2 in my opinion, but I think either way is fine.
I agree with that.
3, I do have Bijan. Texas guy, hook 'em horns.
Gotta have your Texas guy.
I gotta have my Texas guy, hook 'em horns. But I think he's just so talented. And I was going through it, and 4 of the last 7 years, we've had a rookie running back in the top 5. You have him at 5, so it's not like it's a crazy difference. But like we've had a rookie running back. We had Alvin Kamara was there. We had Kareem Hunt who was there. We had Zeke who was there. We had Saquon Barkley who was there. And 5, and Najee Harris was there too. 2 of them happened in the same year. But so we've had these running backs as of late because, like you said, they get used so much in college that they already come in pro ready. It's the easiest transition position. So they come in pro ready. It's why you use them for 5 years, 6 years. They get one big contract, and then after they become journeymen, unless you're someone like Derrick Henry, who has been crazy, or you're, which is why it's nice now that you use kind of backish by committee where you allow it. So I think Algier is going to get run, but Bijan's just so talented, man. Like I think running and catching the ball, like he could get, like you could tell me right now, he runs for 1,200. Algier runs for 800. So like almost 2,000 from the running back committee, but he gets 60 catches, 600 yards, and like 4 touchdowns. Like you could tell me that happened, and I'd be like, well, I mean, if Eckler's getting 107 and McCaffrey's getting 85, it's not crazy to think Bijan, especially with what he's doing in practice already, could get 60. So,
and I think this day and age in the NFL, you don't draft a running back in the top 10 if you're not going to use him.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to. I mean, especially in this day and age, you're going to draft in the Falcons got a good offensive line. They've got a run mentality, and they just said, hey, we're going to get probably what we consider the best player at the draft position we are. We're not going to worry about, we already have a running back, whatever. We don't care. We're just going to he's the best player. Could be him and Pitts. Like they have 2 of the like best young offensive weapons in the league. I think Pitts has a bounce back year. We get to him later. So I have Bijan 3. I do have Jonathan Taylor 4. What's happening in Indy doesn't shake me on that because he does want to be traded and he's not happy, but playing bad doesn't help his situation. Like when people are in contract disputes you have to prove why you are that person. So on one hand, when you would think, oh, maybe he would sit out because he wants to preserve his body. In the other hand, he clearly sees what the running back market is. He's not going to reset it again.
Right.
So like, and a lot of like, here's also the thing is a lot of teams have backs. Like Dalvin Cook doesn't have a team yet.
Right. And
he's great.
Like Jonathan Taylor, I think would be a guy where teams would go after him, but but he would be in a situation where he would 100% share time. Right now, he's in the same kind of position as like Derrick Henry, where he is the guy. Yes. No matter what, he's gonna get like 300 plus carries, like just be used.
Like he's gonna share time. One, if he goes somewhere else, he's definitely gonna share time. Not that he won't be the primary, but he's gonna share time. And like,
I don't think he gets the money he wants if he leaves.
It's the money he wants. I was talking in the football my group chat that I have for like my fantasy basketball and football league with people that work at Dick's Sporting Goods, and I brought up, I was like, for a lot of these teams, like I took the Eagles for an example. We have an Eagles fan there. You've got Rashad Penny and you've got DeAndre Swift in your backfield. You're 1 and 2. You have Kenneth Gainwell 2 as well, but those are your really 2 guys. So say McCaffrey, DeAndre Swift can do 95% of what McCaffrey can do receiving. Honestly, you could almost go 100. Like DeAndre Swift is that talented receiving. He can run too, but receiving. Rashad Penny can do mostly what you can get out of Christian McCaffrey running. Together, they're Christian McCaffrey, but you can get them much cheaper. So, like, if you're thinking in that mindset, you can get Christian McCaffrey in a sense, 45 cents on the dollar, and you're going to get a healthier Christian McCaffrey because they're not taking as many hits. And so like it's almost stupid sometimes not to, with how much talent's coming in at the running back position. So like teams that could use him, the Dolphins would be able to use him. You'd get him. You'd still have Jeff Wilson, who would definitely be used. You'd have Raheem Mostert, who would get some touches as well. They got the rookie, I can't pronounce, Ashone. Um, he would be like, I just like, there's people like, if Dalvin Cook goes there, it'd be a perfect situation because I think he's another guy who gets injured, but he's going to be used. He's the primary, but he's going to be sharing time. I just don't see a situation where he doesn't. But
I think the funny thing about his situation is it's all of the AFC East that wants him. They're all like fighting each other for him.
Yeah. Like the only team where I don't think he shares a lot of time is the Bills.
Agreed.
And if the Bills get him, I don't know they use him like that. They don't use their backs. Like you'll probably see like 16 to 20 carries a game, which is great and cool, but they don't have the money to just dump on a back. They're not going to crazily throw it because Josh Allen's going to be still the focal point.
He might get like 3 games, kind of like what happened with like Singletary when he was there. Maybe like 3 games where they actually use him and he just blows up. Yeah. But the rest, he's going to be such boomer bust.
Yeah, it's like they're going to be like, you know what, we got Jonathan Taylor, we're paying some money for him. Let's get him like 16 carries. So he might go 16 for 95 and a touchdown, and that's great, but like at what cost?
Right.
And James Cook isn't a bad back at all. Obviously, he's not Jonathan Taylor at all, but he's not bad. And they have Damian Harris, which I think was a really good pickup for them because he runs mean and aggressive. And then at 5, I've got Saquon. I think, again, I liked what I saw from him the first half of last season. If you can get more of that, Saquon definitely can be there. The last half of last season, he was mid, as the kids say these days. He's mid. He had a decent season, like at that second half, obviously. Overall, he had a really good season. I think he's poised to have a really good season again, especially in that day ball offense too. I like the fact that you're going to probably see a lot of check down screens, and they like to utilize Saquon because he is definitely the most electrifying player on their team. That was a long-winded 5, but it's a 5. So you can go 6 through 10 on your list.
6, I have Nick Chubb. And then 7, I have Saquon.
Okay.
And I have Saquon a little bit lower than you just because he did have 57 catches, but he only had 338 yards.
And no touchdowns.
Yeah. And for a guy like, since we're doing half PPR, like the 57, that does add up. Yes. But he's just not putting up a lot of stats. Like Nick Chubb, on the other hand, he had 27 catches. So 30 less, but he had 239 yards and he had a touchdown. And then when you look at running, he did better running.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I have like Nick Chubb above him.
Yeah.
I do think that you could switch him. You could flip-flop him.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. I like Nick Chubb a lot, though. He did run a lot last year, 302 carries, which I was kind of surprised looking at it. Like, I didn't think he ran that much.
And they don't have Kareem Hunt this year.
Yes.
So they don't have, like, Kareem Hunt piss you. As a fantasy owner, Kareem Hunt would piss you off because they love to do their, like, we're going to throw Kareem Hunt in on the 20-yard line and just run him from there on. Like, we're just going to give Chubb this break. And I was like...
There'd be games where Hunt would come out with, like, 2 touchdowns. And you're like, Nick Chubb still got me 20, but he could have got me, like, 40 or 50.
No, he could have balled out. It was like Chubb 19 for $148 in a tub. And you're like, well, he could have been 22 for $170 and 3. But and that mattered more in FanDuel for us, which, side note, a little bit, we're going to be doing daily fantasy stuff. I'll talk more about it at the end. But, yeah, go on.
So number 8, I have Josh Jacobs.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Jacobs was phenomenal last year.
Mm-hmm.
He played very well, and he actually had 53 catches.
Yes.
The only thing with him is I'm not so sure that he'll be able to replicate the production he had. Yep. I do think he's going to be really good again.
Yes.
But their team, you just never know. Like, if their QB doesn't stay healthy, which Jimmy G like never stays healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And then their offensive line is still kind of not very good.
It's not great.
So
It's not terrible, but it's not great.
that's why he's 8. But like last year, I drafted him later last year, and he helped
He was
me a
one of
lot.
the he was one of the steals. We're later on we're gonna be introducing some awards of what we had. He would have put like one of the biggest surprise. Like he would have probably been that. Like
For sure.
for me, I was gonna say Justin Jefferson a few years back won me the league essentially, and I got him in the 16th round. That was one of the greatest things I've ever did. Because I mean, I had Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, and Justin Jefferson as my wide receiving core throughout the year, which was literally the greatest thing I've ever had in my life. So
That year with Jefferson was like people who got Odell during his rookie year.
yeah, absolutely.
Odell was like a free agent acquisition. Like you picked him up in free agency because he was coming back after injury, and then he just blew up and he
like,
won people leagues.
It's like, all right, got it. All right. From that point on, you're like, oh my, who is this guy? It's just Odell Beckham Jr.
Last year, though, I was frustrated. I had Josh Jacobs and Jefferson, and I didn't even make the playoffs. And Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I was thinking Devontae too. It's because your quarterback play sucks so bad. Like you had Russell Wilson. You're like, yeah, no, I think Russell could do.
And then I ended up getting Kirk Cousins, but
he died at the end of the year.
He did. It's like, it was frustrating.
Yeah.
But number 9, I have Travis Etienne.
Ooh.
And then I do like him a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'll have a better year. I think last year, like he did look really good.
Yeah.
But I think he runs a little bit more and hopefully catches a little bit more.
Yep.
I mean, he came off of an injury, and I think their offense becomes into a better groove this year.
Yeah.
And then number 10 is Breece Hall.
Okay.
Breece Hall, that's if they don't get Dalvin Cook, of course. His rumors are, like he was at their practice the other day.
Yeah.
Breece Hall, before he got injured, was looking really, really good.
He was disgusting.
His running wasn't the greatest, but they used him so much in the pass game. And I think that'll still happen again. I think he could start off slow because, getting the rust off, and they do have like a new offensive coordinator and a new quarterback. But I think he could come in and actually do like really, really well again.
I agree. I think I like him. I have him in a different spot than you do, but I also think that it's very, very possible that he has another phenomenal season.
For me, 9 to like 15, 16 was very, very tough. They're all about the same. And to put them in order, it was so tough.
I think you have legitimately, I think you have 3 tiers of running backs. I think your Austin Eckler, Christian McCaffrey is your top tier.
Yep.
I think from Bijan all the way down, for me at 8, I have Derrick Henry. I'll go through my list. But that 3 to 8 with the Josh Jacobs, Nick Chubb, I think that's a tier.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think from your 9, again, down to like where I have like around Joe Mixon, Javonte Williams-ish like range.
Yep.
That's a tier. Like I think that they're just so where you have them ranked, as long as they're within that group, you're fine. But if you have them outside of that group, like if I had Henry at 14, then you're just like, what are we doing? But I agree with you. My 6 is Nick Chubb, just like you. My 7 is Josh Jacobs. My 8 is Derrick Henry. And it really comes down to just the receiving, and I think Derrick Henry takes a step back. Like I could see him around maybe he had 1,500 yards and 13 touchdowns last year on 350 carries. I could see him 1,250. I could see him 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns. And since he's not going to catch, that's still a really good fantasy season. It's still a really good running back season. I just don't think he's going to be as high as some of these others. But again, could prove me wrong because again, It's Derek freaking Henry, and he can do whatever he wants. So he could prove me wrong there.
I just remember, I don't know if it was last year or the year before. I was like, he's gonna finally hit that spot where
It was last year. We talked about it.
Where he's gonna like hit that decline, and he just didn't.
He's like, because it was coming off the injury. Because the year before he was fake, and then he got injured, and still like ended up like top 11 rushing. It was like crazy.
And he played like maybe like, half a season.
Yeah, it was like half a season, and then you're like, yeah, I think. And I was like, I was just so consistent. I was like, I think he can do it, but I don't know because I wasn't even fully sure. We talked about it, and you were like he's still gonna be good, but he just might hit that wall.
I just thought he would
decline
some at least.
Yeah, yeah, he was like, he's decline coming off an injury. He could possibly be, and then just all this. Nope, not at all.
Just the same old guy.
Just the same old Derrick Henry. So I have him at 8. I have Ramondre at 9. I think that Ramondre is going to be a lot of the Patriot offense. I think Bill loves him. There's no Damian Harris there. I know Bill always loves to throw in random guys. Like he'll probably find some random guy off the street and just be like, throw him in there to play running back for a few. But he's great in the passing game. He can run well. The Patriots always have a good offensive line. I think that Ramondre is poised to have a very good season, and he's the one Patriot that you're going to want to draft, like that you have to draft. I think there's a couple Patriots that are interesting. I think Juju's interesting. So far out of camp, Hunter Henry's gotten a lot of buzz, but otherwise, there's not really too much Peyton. You're not drafting McCorkle. And then at 10, I've got one of the players that I've ranked as low as 17 and as high as about 9, and it is Tony Pollard. Right now I have him at 10. Tony Pollard is electric. He is an amazing back. He's an amazing talent. Tony Pollard has never been the guy. He might have been in high school. I don't know about I can't get his high school stats. But like in college, even when he was getting a lot of he was getting touches, like his senior year of college at Memphis, 72 rushes, 522 yards, 39 catches, 458 yards. In the kick return game, he returned one for a touchdown. Like, he's just an electric guy, so you want the ball in his hands all the time. I just don't know how he's going to be once he gets to 250, gets to 300. I don't know if he breaks down. I don't know if he doesn't. With Zeke, I understand he was going down in talent, and Tony Pollard by the last year and a half was definitely the better back. But I think the fact that you could throw Zeke on 3rd and 1, goal line, and those things help preserve Tony Pollard's body. And so it's going to be interesting to see him as the workhorse, how he can be. So that's Tony Pollard at 10. He's a guy I have the biggest question mark on as a top tier guy.
And building off of what you said, he's going to have to be the guy to take those short yardage carries. Like you said, like Zeke was always there, but he's going to have to take those, and those can take a pounding on your body.
They really can, and I just don't know if the thing about him that was so great was they had Zeke, who, regardless of whatever you think about how Zeke has ended his time there in Dallas, he's a big body and willing to put his head between the tackles. So he's gonna hit linebackers, regardless if the explosiveness is there. That's still 220 to 240, whatever he weighed, hitting your body hard, coming at you in the hole. So then fourth quarter, when that hole's open the same and you think you're going to meet that, you meet this shifty little guy who can run close to 4.3, and you're like, oh, man, damn, that's not Zeke anymore. That's a guy. That's not that Zeke fella anymore. That's that Tony Pollard guy. And I don't know if Malik Davis is going to do it for him. So,
I
so
do.
we'll
A
see.
guy I do like is Deuce Vaughn
Yeah.
for the rookie for the Cowboys.
Yep.
He's a smaller guy, but man, he was good in college. Kansas State last year actually was really good,
Mm-hmm.
and he was a big reason why. And he actually got used. He is only like 5'5", 175. So that's the thing that's weird about their dynamic on their team right now is they don't have anyone that's like a big body running
And they
back.
got Ronald Jones too. So like, and Ronald Jones
And
isn't like particularly
he's
huge
suspended
body.
now for like 2 games too.
Yeah. And so
So
he's not particularly huge. He's 5'11", 210. Like it's not nothing to write home about.
I do know I saw like a report the other day saying that like Dak and some other guys really were impressed with how well Deuce Vaughn has done. I
Mm-hmm.
do think Tony Pollard is the guy, but
Yeah.
I could see Deuce Vaughn maybe getting some carries, especially later in the season as things progress.
Yeah, and it's gonna help. And if you got a guy who can mimic Tony Pollard, so like the offense doesn't have the playbook doesn't have to change terribly with from Tony Pollard to Deuce Vaughn, where
Right.
obviously it had to change. You had 2 sets when you had Zeke to Tony Pollard, so it's interesting, but we'll see. Go 10 to 15.
I have at 11. I have Ramondre Stevenson.
Mm-hmm.
I think everything you said about him, I fully agree with.
Yep.
I had him just a little bit lower, but like we said, that 9 to like 16 is like really close for me.
Yes.
Like super close. But I do think Ramondre had a lot of catches last year too. I think he'll be a
Mm-hmm.
focal point.
Yes, I agree.
12, I have
69.
Tony Pollard.
Mm-hmm.
13, I have Aaron Jones. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
Packer guy, so of course I like my Packers players, but I think
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Jones gets back to form like he was in, I think it was 2020, 2019, where he had a bunch
Mm-hmm.
of rushing touchdowns. I think
that was the season he had 4 against the Dallas Cowboys, right?
mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I think he gets back to that. They do have AJ Dillon, which I think he will do pretty well as well, but I think the Packers will finally run more of a Matt LaFleur offense. They'll run the ball more than they have been with Rodgers.
Yep.
Especially Jordan Love being in his first year. You're going to want to take some pressure off of him. And
Mm-hmm.
what better way to do that than running? And I think
Yes.
Jordan Love, everything I've read so far is that Aaron Jones worked out a bunch with Jordan Love this offseason, like throwing the ball. And I think
Yeah.
Aaron Jones is actually a really good catcher. I think they could
Yeah.
use him a lot more in the pass game.
Yes.
I think we'll see more 2 running back sets from them.
Yep.
Number 14, I have Kenneth Walker.
Mm-hmm.
I do like him a lot. He played really good last year. He does have like a little injury right now. But the thing that scares me the most is they drafted Zach Charbonnet. I think that's how you say it. In like what, the second, third round?
Yeah.
And like that's a little scary. So I feel like they may split more time. So then Kenneth Walker might go down some because of that. Because last year Penny got hurt and he didn't really split time with anyone.
No. Because Chris Carson was already out, Penny went down, and it was like, okay, so there's no healthy back right now in Seattle. So Kenneth Walker, you just cook away.
Yeah, so I think and he didn't really catch the ball a lot. They didn't really throw to him a lot. So
No.
he only had 27 catches for 165 and 0 touchdowns. So I think that's why he's where he is. I do like him. I think he's very good, but
Yep.
Then my number 15 is Najee Harris. Last year, looking at his numbers, I thought he had more of a down year than he did. He still finished top 15.
Yep.
And their backups are bad. They're not good. They're
Jalen Warren's not going to be your kind of. He's going to be the pass catcher type. He doesn't
scare me.
He's going to be your pass catcher type. Then that's all he's going to do.
I think Najee, he was another one that was tough to rank because I think their offense does better than what they have been, and I think they got like the Eagles starting one of their starting guards. They signed him in free agency, then they drafted a tackle in the first round.
Yep.
If their offensive line's better, their passing game is better. I think Najee that would open up the run game for him.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he could have a pretty good year, but I have him 15.
Yes. Okay. Everyone you have, I have there, just in different order. So, obviously you had, I believe, Ramondre at 11.
Yep.
I have Aaron Jones at 11. Everything you said about Aaron Jones, I 100% agree with. I think they'll run more two-back sets. I think you have Matt LaFleur, who's going to finally be able to 100% have control of the offense, because obviously you have Aaron Rodgers, who's a champion, a two-time MVP, coming in when Matt LaFleur comes in. You're like, okay. And then he wins 2 MVPs while you're there doing what he's doing, and you're like, okay, I can't really, like, I can coach, but I can't really, it has a partnership. Now it really is like Matt LaFleur, because he comes from that Sean McVay, that Kyle Shanahan, like that whole tree. And all of them, even though obviously they're nuanced offenses, they all come from running backgrounds. It's established
a lot of play
run,
action.
Establish the run, to establish play action, to take your deep shots. And I think that Aaron Jones is going to get back into being that guy, first and second down for sure. And then I think A.J. Dillon's going to be, and sometimes a third down back, and A.J. Dillon's going to be a bruiser. I think A.J. Dillon could border towards 1,000. Like you saw a couple years back when Ingram and Kamara both had over 1,000 all purpose. That kind of thing. So I love Aaron Jones this year. Najee I have at 12 for everything that you said, and the fact that Kenny Pickett is another year in. He's more comfortable with the offense. Their passing game's more of a threat. You've got Pickens, who looks like he could take a little bit of a step into being one of those guys, like a true kind of number one-ish style receiver. And you have Deontay Johnson, who's already on our number one style receiver. So they could have the lower tier of 2-1s in a sense. Not your T. Higgins and Jamar Chase ones, but like kind of how like, no, I'm not even going to compare it to Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, but like the comparison between Justin Jefferson, but Justin Jefferson's just in a different class. Right. But like that kind of thing where they're like, both kind of can be ones on any given day. So I think that can benefit Najee a lot. And again, as you said, he had the same yards per carry from year 1 to year 2. The difference was that Big Ben couldn't throw farther than 15 yards. So every second it was 1 Mississippi, 2. Okay, there you go, Najee. And that's where the difference really in it came for the most part. 13, I have ETN. He is coming off an injury, but I still think with their offense, they're going to be high powered. It's going to be fun to watch Jacksonville this year. So I think ETN's poised to have himself a big year. 14, I've got Kenneth Walker. Again, everything you said, I think he's poised to have himself a big year. Again, coming off an injury too, but still money. He was great last year. Every time you had him, he was 5 yards a carry. He was close to 5 yards a carry last year. And then 15, I have Breece Hall, again, coming off an injury. And I think he's going to get a little bit of that Aaron Jones treatment. I think he's going to be like over 5 yards a carry. Every time he touches the ball, it's going to be great. It just might be 16 times instead of 23. Because they do have Michael Carter there too. They also do have a Zovion Knight. So like they have people, or Zonovan Knight. I don't know how do you pronounce it, Zovion or whatever.
They have a guy too,
and they drafted a guy too that I can't.
Israel Abinaconda. It's something similar to that. He's not on my list, but he's actually a guy that I think could be interesting. He is he's another interesting guy. So I think they're gonna spell him a little bit more than they will some of the other people, but his per rush and his per reception numbers are going to be top tier. It's just I don't think he's going to get as much as he could, and that's what brought him down to 15 for me. But again, if you told me Breece got to 9, I'd be like, okay.
Like that nine, that tier is
Right.
just like they're just together. They're clumped. But you're 15 through 20.
I have Joe Mixon at 16.
I'm just gonna say likewise. Oh wait, no, I'm 17. All right, go on. He's around there. Yeah.
He's tough because I do like him a lot. Very talented,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't have Samaje Perine anymore. And for some reason, they just decided they wanted to use him a bunch at the end of last year, which brought Mixon's uh, product down.
Yeah.
But I think he's tough. He didn't run as well as he did the year before, but I think he could have like a more of a bounce back year. He
And he
could
had
be
a
a
lot of
guy that
receptions last year.
he did. The literally what hurt him last year is that Pirine would come in and just take his touchdowns.
Yeah.
Literally, that was the biggest issue with him. But I think he could be as high as like 9, as like you said. I think he's like I have one other guy in that group from me. Mine would be like 9 to 17.
Yeah.
But I think he and their offense is going to put up points. They have a great passing game, so
Yeah.
he could do his thing again.
Yep.
Number 17, I have
Yep.
Javonte Williams.
I hate you so much. That's the same person. Go on.
Javonte Williams, I think he is a guy who could get all the way up to top 5.
Like it just how it comes off of the injury, and Sean Payton's known for running. It just literally depends on how he comes off of his injury.
I think like go back a couple years to Alvin Kamara and what he did, like when he had a bunch of touchdowns. Javonte Williams is a better runner, and I think he can catch the ball almost as good.
Yes.
And I think Sean Payton is going to use him.
Yes.
It's just like you said, coming off the injury. And then I swear, if Samaje Perine takes touchdowns from him because he's on Denver now, I'm going to be so mad.
He could. He really could.
He could. That's the only thing, but I think he's going to be good. I like him a lot.
Yep.
18, I have Jamari Gibbs.
Okay.
I think I do like David Montgomery a lot.
Yes.
I do like him a lot, but I think, like I said for Bijan, you don't draft a running back 12th overall to not use him. And Gibbs I'm an Alabama guy, so I watch a lot of their games, and Gibbs is actually a really, really good catcher.
Yep.
I think he gets used similar to how Swift did, but stays healthy. And so then they'll run him more because he stays healthy.
Yeah.
So I have him 18.
Yeah.
19, I have Miles Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
A little higher than a lot of people, but I think Frank Reich likes to run the ball. Absolutely. Miles Sanders did really well last year.
Absolutely.
And he actually is a really good pass catcher.
He is.
The
Eagles didn't need it as much last year.
Right. But I think in Carolina, he could be interesting. And they ran well. Like Deonta Foreman last year when he came in, he ran really well. Like he had some games where he helped me in fantasy one time.
Yeah. Yes.
So I think Sanders could come in and be that guy. Be really good. Number 10, I have DeAndre Swift. Right. Number 20, I have DeAndre Swift.
Yes.
I think he's tough. I had him more like 30th all the way to 20. Like in that range, making the list. He was all the way up there. But I settled with 20 because Philly their offensive line is just so good. And then with Jalen Hurts running, Swift being such a good pass catcher, and then if you look at his running stats, he averages over 5 yards a carry every time he plays.
Yes.
I think he could be super good there. It's just the fact that there's probably like an 80% chance he's getting hurt. That's the only thing. But I
That
kept
really
him
is.
I kept him high for the chance that he does stay healthy. Sometimes you got to take a chance in fantasy. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like he's one of those guys that you could take a chance on and he could do really, really well and help you.
He is running back 2 to flex. If he's your flex, it could be lights out. Like he's about running back 2 status, but he's at that running back 2 to lower running back 2 to high flex.
Yep.
Because like essentially Brees Hall is technically a running back 2. He's not your top 10. So he's technically a running back 2, even though he really has like running back 1 potential. So, but yeah. So we talked about our list prior, and I had a different list than what I do now. And the similarities in how we are is, yeah. So my 16 is Javonte Williams, because I think that Javonte is going to come back, and I love how Sean Payton's going to use him like they used Alvin Kamara. I just see, and I think they use Samaje semi like they use Mark Ingram. It makes too much sense. It just really, how does he come back off the injury, and like how quick can he get that step back? Because I don't think they allow Russell Wilson to chuck the ball down the field. They've upgraded the line.
I don't think they want to let him.
No, I don't think they allow him. I don't think they want him to. I really think that Javonte could have a breakout year, and he's one of the guys that could be one of the biggest surprises of this year, especially because where other people have him. Other people have him mid to late 20s. And I think that he definitely could peak into that next tier easy. So I have Javonte high. We both might be swinging and missing on it, but I think he's a guy who you could probably get 5th, 6th round, and if you can get Javonte in the 5th or 6th, I think it's like getting Josh Jacobs last year in the 5th or 6th. I think it could be semi like that. So then you have that, and I have Joe Mixon 17, all because exactly what you said. There's no Samaje. Last year he had 60 catches. They use him receiving game. They use him in the running game. Regardless of Joe Burrow being able to throw it all over the lot, they run the ball. So that's 17. 18, I have Miles Sanders. I had Miles Sanders originally at 26, then 22, then 24, then 22. Then I got him up at 18. And I honestly want to put him even higher. There was a report like last week that came out that they want to use him as a 3-down back. Last year, he ran for about 1,300 yards, 11 touchdowns. I understand the Panthers line's not the Eagles line, but the Panthers line is not a bad line. They are not bad. They've got some pieces on that offensive line, and I think that with Bryce Young, when you have a quarterback who can throw and Bryce Young can throw, I think it relieves pressure on the run game, and they're going to be able to. He's going to average about 4 to 4.5 yards a carry, and they're going to run him 250 ish times. I think he could be a very good higher end running back too.
And they don't have great receiving weapons. Like their number one guy is like Adam Thielen.
It's Adam Thielen and DJ Chark. That's
like those aren't spectacular, especially for a rookie QB.
Yeah, that's where Bryce Young could be a little bit in trouble. They did get rid of DJ Moore, but they got. I understand. I get it.
That's why I agree. Like, especially if they do use him as a 3-down back, is he could be a safety blanket for him.
Yeah,
like just dump it off to him because no one else is just getting open.
Mm-hmm. I think he could. He might not blow up, but he could be that guy who's consistent, like that 10 to 12 points every week guy. And that's almost better than like DeAndre Swift last year, who you're like, if he plays, that's 20. But will he play?
Right.
Will he play all game? He might get me 2 carries for 69, but can he get in the end zone before he gets that 60, before he goes down? Because if he can, then we're good. But and then speaking of DeAndre Swift, I do have myself DeAndre Swift at 20, another guy who when talking to you, I was like lower on him only because of injury, literally only because of injury. And I was like, you know what? We're not playing the injury game here. This guy can ball. Like every time he touches the ball, it could be 6. And you can't say that about many backs in the league. There are not many backs above him on the ranking that you can say are more 6 prone than him.
His efficiency rating is so high.
Nuts. He's like Jamal Charles. Like Jamal Charles. I mean, the thing about Jamal Charles is he didn't get really hurt like that. So that's why he was so good. But, you know, so I have the same pretty much back half of that. So like our top 20 is the exact same players, just in different order, which is, yeah.
Okay. We tend to think a lot of the same things.
We really do think alike. And we really didn't talk much about this before because I wanted to be shocked with what he said and I wanted him to think what I said was like, okay. Because that word more conversation comes out, then I know exactly what you're going to say.
Right.
So, we're at 20. Oh, actually, no, sorry. Oh, my bad. I lied. I had Jahmyr Gibbs at 19 and then Swift at 20. I just skipped over 19. So Jahmyr Gibbs is my 19. I just decided not to say 19. So Jahmyr Gibbs is my 19. I think he's gonna ball out.
Their offensive line is just so good in Detroit.
Yeah, I don't. That Detroit's offense last year was fire. I think this year it can be about just as fire. They got a really good offensive line. Gibbs and Montgomery's a great 1-2 punch. It's about the same as Swift and Williams. You've got obviously Amon-Ra, who's a stud among studs. Jameson Williams, who people are forgetting about. I think he could be electric play style wise. I know they don't have TJ Hawkinson, but even without TJ Hawkinson, I think they can be a really good team. They definitely are competing to win that division. They might be the favorites as of this moment right now. I think the Packers I think the Packers are more interesting than people give credit for. I think people might be too high on the Vikings, and then the Bears are the Bears. But moving forward, go 21 to 30. We'll breeze through that.
21, I have Dameon Pierce.
Okay.
I don't like the Texans' offense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like them. Their offensive line, they have Laramie Tunsil and then who?
They have Gas Mask Larry.
Their offensive line is just not the greatest. They don't really have that many wide receivers. They have a rookie QB. I think Dameon Pierce gets used a lot.
Yep.
I think they'll run him. I think they'll pass to him. So I have him 21 for that.
Yep.
But I could see him being lower.
Yes.
22, I have Alexander Madison.
Mm-hmm.
He's a tough one for me. The Vikings running backs always seem to do good back from when Adrian Peterson was there. And Madison, the last couple years when Madison has played when Cook gets hurt, he doesn't average even 4 yards a carry.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing that worries me. But I think that the way that they use the running backs just so much that there's no one else to really compete with him.
Yeah.
So I think that he'll get used there. Cam Akers is 23.
Yeah.
From what I've read, they want him to become a 3-down back.
Okay.
Cam Akers has looked good. He's just not always healthy.
And they tried to rush him back way too early in that Super Bowl.
Way too early.
He was not ready. He looked so bad. And I'm not even mad at you. He just wasn't ready.
I was surprised because wasn't it an Achilles tear?
No, I think it was an ACL. It was an ACL in the same season. Like he tore his ACL to start the season and was playing on it by the end of the season.
That's crazy.
And I was like, whoa, that is so early. I mean, I'm glad he didn't have like major damage, and he did not look. He couldn't move the same.
I think that he could have a better year again. He played solid last year, but at the end of the year they had no one.
Yeah.
So I think he could have a better year again.
Yep.
Number 24, I've been high on for years. And me and you both were high on him before too, is J.K. Dobbins. If he can stay healthy, he is really, really good.
Any Ravens running back is like he's
so talented. I've liked him since he was at Ohio State.
Yeah.
He would be higher, except for he misses even more time than DeAndre Swift has.
He does not know how to stay healthy.
If he stays healthy, I like him. So he's 24.
Yep.
25, I have Rachaad White. I think he could be very interesting.
Yes.
He caught a lot of passes, and now he is the main guy because Leonard Fournette is gone.
Yep.
I do like him. It's just their team. I don't know what their team's gonna be right now. Their team has enough players on them that they could be good, or they could just be bad.
I don't know how I feel about the Bucs this year. Like they're interesting.
They're interesting. 26,
interesting.
I have Alvin Kamara.
Mm-hmm.
He probably would be higher. Hey, like talent-wise, he's top 10.
Yeah.
Like he's very talented. They just didn't really use him like they usually do last year. It looks like he's going to get suspended for his, for some reason he wanted to box when he was in Vegas. So, and then they got Jamal Williams, and Jamal Williams is going to end up taking all the touchdowns just like he did last year in Detroit.
Jamal Williams is someone who in fantasy you're going to want to pick up. If you can get him, if you can draft him 9th, 10th round as a number one back, he's going to be useful. And especially when Kamara's there, that is not a bad flex option week to week, depending on how deep your league is. If you have a 12-team league, not a terrible flex option week to week.
I agree.
That's after Kamara comes back. Before Kamara comes back, he's definitely a nice flex option. But after, he's not even a terrible flex option week to week.
And I've heard a lot, too, that a lot of people really like Kendre Miller.
Mm-hmm.
They drafted him this year. He's a rookie. I don't really think he'll get used a lot. But if he starts balling when Kamara is suspended, I don't know if they would stop using him. So it's just a lot of question marks. Yeah. And who knows how the Saints are going to be. I would think they'd do better than last year because Derek Carr is a better QB than they had.
Yep.
But we'll see. 27 is James Conner. He's just been very consistent. I almost had him higher, but I don't like the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals jump on the Caleb Williams bandwagon and they win that contest.
Wait, hold on. What happens to Kyler? They just paid him.
They did just pay him. I think they have new coaches. So it depends on Kyler, too. If Kyler comes out and balls, they're not going to have the number one pick. But their team is not good. Their team is just not good. I think that they could end up having the number one pick. And I think if they get the number one pick, you have to take Caleb Williams. You have to.
You have to. And his contract doesn't, like, the thing about it is his contract doesn't kick in until next year. Like this year, he's making $2 million, and the signing bonus is $6 million. So he's making like $9 million this year, or about $10 million. Next year's his cap hits at 51, and his dead cap is at 81 million. Like he's untradeable. But what do you do? Like, what do you do if you're the Cardinals?
They're in a very shitty situation.
Oh my God. Could you imagine, like, say Kyler has a setback. Very possible, too. He has a setback and misses like 10 weeks. They're 1-9. and you're like, okay. Then Kyler just sits. Or like he comes back and they win like 3 games and they still manage to be the worst team. What do you do? What do you do? You can't trade him. The dead money's too much. But then you have Caleb. What are you going to sit Caleb Williams for a year?
I think they would have to get a team. And I don't know what team would be interested. I think there's too many question marks about Kyler that teams wouldn't want to pay him too.
But then again,
you'd have to get a desperate team that would help take on some of that like dead money, like take on some of that, or him being willing to restructure.
And what kind of deal do you get for the number 1 overall pick?
For Caleb Williams,
that's a haul.
I feel like people would give up a lot. But at the same time,
that's 6+ firsts at easy.
But at the same time, do you want to be the team that gave away the potential next Patrick Mahomes?
That's the thing. Like, what do you do? Like, okay, so as me, if I have the number 1 pick, I'm going to do whatever I can to get rid of Kyler Murray. Because here's the thing. Like, they're going to have to eat a bunch of money. Like, it has to happen. But the good thing about it would be is Caleb Williams is on a rookie contract. The bad thing is, like, normally the good thing about quarterbacks on a rookie deal is they're not making much. So you can get a bunch of other pieces to help them win early. But essentially, it would be like you're just paying the most expensive quarterback in the league with the rookie contract plus Kyler Murray every year. So it'd be like you're already paying Caleb Williams the money that you wouldn't get the benefit of it. But again, you've got to trade him. And then, like, I'm thinking New England. Like, if I'm Bill, I'm going to open my doors to him because the contract, like the way that the contract's probably settled, they would have money to get. So, like,
and the Patriots have money to spend.
And the Patriots have money to spend. Like, and I'm telling you right now, if we went from going from McCorkle to Kyler, you went Kyler, and then you can get a receiver with Kyler now. Someone's going to be like, DeAndre Hopkins doesn't look like, okay. Like, you now look, and you're like, okay, Kyler, you get a nice receiver to go along with Ramondre, to go along with that, plus to go along with that defense. Now we're talking playoffs. We're talking true, like, we can contend playoffs. But, man, that's crazy. Sorry. Talking James Conner and that team. I think you're 27, possibly, something like that.
James Conner was 27.
Yeah, so 28.
He's just so consistent.
Yeah, no, he really is. The touchdowns are consistent with him.
He just is another guy that he's probably not finishing the season, playing a whole season.
No, he's not finishing that season.
My 28 is Isaiah Pacheco.
Okay.
I'm not too high on him, but I think he will be the number 1 guy in Kansas City. And at this point, we're getting to the point where there's not many number 1 running backs left.
Mm-hmm.
So he's at 28 because he is the number 1. He is going to get the ball. Yeah. And they have a high-powered offense. He could still put up some points.
Yeah.
And then at 29, I have David Montgomery.
I like that.
David Montgomery is super talented. I'm shocked that the Bears actually got rid of him.
He's a number 1. He's a number 1 in the league. There's not 32 backs better than him in the league, in my opinion. No.
And I think the one consistent thing about the Lions, so I'm not so sure their pass game will replicate what they did last year, but they're going to run the damn ball.
Yes. They're going to take kneecaps and they're going to run the damn ball.
I think David Montgomery will get a similar treatment to Jamal Williams, except for he's better.
Yes.
He'll get a lot of the short stuff, and I think he'll be good. So he's 29. And then 30, I have Khalil Herbert.
Yeah.
The games where he has played for Chicago, he did do really, really well.
Yeah.
Chicago is difficult just because I don't like much of what they're doing right now. You're the worst team in the league for a reason.
Yes.
But I do like Khalil Herbert has shown he is talented. So he's my 30th.
I have pretty much something similar to that. So my 21 right now is Alvin Kamara. With the suspension looming, that could be much pushback. I think he just has talent. There's too much talent there to not have him around there. I definitely, even with the suspension, if you could snag him 8th round, I think having him as a flex option every week is, it can't get much better, especially in deeper leagues.
Right.
So I got that 21. I've got Damian Pierce 22. He's the only real offensive weapon that they have there. I mean, they have Nico Collins, Robert Woods. Oh, Dalton Schultz. They do have Dalton Schultz, but again, yeah. CJ Stroud's going to have a fun rookie year. You got Alexander Madison. I got him at 23. I think he's interesting. I think that the Vikings will use him. I love him in that lower running back to flex position. I think he's interesting there. 24, I've got Rashad White. He is somebody who could definitely end up being lower tier running back 2, but I have him in that flexish kind of spot. But definitely could be lower tier running back 2. He's really good in the pass game. I think Baker's going to need some outlets, and their tight end play is not great. I know they have Cameron Breda. I know they have Kate Otten, but
no one's phoning home about those guys.
I was going to say we're not riding home. The cows are not coming home for them. Chickens are not coming to roost for them. But so I've got him 24. J.K. Dobbins, I do have 25. It's 5.7 and 6.0 yards per carry his only 2 seasons in the league. It's when he gets the ball, he's big time. It's, can you stay on the field? If you stay on the field, he's going to produce, and I love it. That's running back. That's lower running back 2 potential there. 26, I got James Conner. Again, 1,000 yards a year, 8+ touchdowns a year. He's just really consistent. You can't really go wrong with him. 27, I have David Montgomery. I think that Detroit's going to use him pretty heavily. I like the way that he's going to be. I can see the way he's going to be used, and I like it. 28, I've got Jamal Williams with the suspension of Kamara looming. Plus, I think he's going to be a high touchdown guy. I think he's going to be a high usage guy, red zone wise. Going to preserve Kamara as much as you can. I think Jamal Williams is interesting. 29, Isaiah Pacheco. Again, not too many number ones that you have left. I have Cam Akers lower than you do. I think Cam Akers has the potential to go high. I just think the Rams' offensive line is so bad that he's not going to have the chance to do it. It has nothing to do with his talent or in his abilities.
I think the thing that'll save him is he can catch the ball.
That's true. That is interesting. I do see why you would have him higher, but I just think the Rams line is so bad.
Another hot take is I think the Rams will be fighting the Cardinals for the KF4 Caleb Williams.
Yeah, that could be interesting. And then number 30, I've got AJ Dillon. So 30, I've got AJ Dillon.
I like that.
All right. So we're going to definitely be posting like all 50. So you guys, if you have later round picks that you're interested in, like the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, like maybe the Damian Harrises and things. But we've been gone running backs for about an hour now. We don't need to talk about running backs anymore. We know who we want. Like after that point, after you get past that, like your 1 running back, your 2 running back, that 3 is interesting, but we're getting to receivers. We want to know who the top dogs here are receivers are. So Austin, just hop right into your receivers. What is your top 5 receivers?
Number 1 is Justin Jefferson. I don't think anything has to be said there.
Nope.
Number 2, I have Cooper Kupp.
Okay.
We talked about how Matthew Stafford sucked last year, but
Yep.
Cooper Kupp still balled out when he played.
Yeah.
He was the only guy. He threw to him all the time. He's a guy I think that could go for 140 catches again.
Yes.
And I think that I think he could potentially be number 1 at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But injury concerns is a problem with him. And then Justin Jefferson is just a baller.
Justin Jefferson is just too consistent for his own good, but like in half PPR, Cooper Kupp averaged 18.2, Justin Jefferson was 17.9. So technically Cooper Kupp would have had the better season if you would have played it out fantasy points wise, but it's Justin Jefferson.
I do think that there's a chance Jefferson does even better for the fact that their defense is going to suck and they're going to pass the ball more. That just gives him even more ability to just do better.
It's just like Justin Jefferson has had arguably the greatest start to a career ever when you're just going individual statistics wise. I don't think it's going to fall.
No, I don't either. 3, I have Jamar Chase.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at his numbers last year, if he didn't get hurt, he would have been up there.
Yeah.
I think he's that guy.
Mm-hmm.
4 is Tyreek Hill.
Yep.
Another guy that he got a lot of catches with the Dolphins. Then he just takes the top off anytime he wants.
Yeah.
I have him 4. Then Devontae Adams 5.
Okay. We don't need to explain why these guys are great. These guys are pretty simple. And I have the same thing. I just have Jamar Chase and Cooper Kupp switch. So I have Justin Jefferson 1. I have Jamar Chase 2. I have Cooper Kupp 3. I have Tyreek Hill 4. I have Devontae Adams 5. And really, Adams could be higher, but I don't trust Jimmy G as much. And that's really the only reason why I have those 4 above Adams. Or those 3 above Adams, because Justin Jefferson is like a solidified number 1 everywhere, except for someone who wants to put Cooper Kupp there, and I don't even hate it. But that's the top 5. There's really not much else to debate. Pretty much the same order.
I do think that Devontae Adams could still finish number 2.
I agree.
I think he's that good, and I think Jimmy G can get him the ball, but you never know.
You're placing your bets on somebody. My bets are higher on Tua, Matt Stafford, Joe Burrow, and Kirk Cousins. Because all those receivers are talent-wise, they're real close. All of them are talent-wise real close.
So my
6 to 10.
To 10, I have Stephon Diggs 6.
Yep.
AJ Brown 7.
Okay.
Don't think anything needs to be said about either of those guys.
No, they really don't. Like with receivers, like the top, like with running backs, it was kind of just like why we had the order there. But like the receivers are just so easy for your top like 10, and then it gets the 10 to 25. That's when it gets interesting for receivers for me.
My number 8 is Garrett Wilson.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
I think Garrett Wilson is going to blow up with Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
All the videos I've seen and him in practice, and he's even like beat Sauce a lot.
Yes,
in practice.
And Sauce is a top 5 corner in the league today, easy.
And having Aaron who can put the ball in any place at any time.
Yep.
I think Garrett Wilson is going to be that dude this year.
Yep.
Number 9 is CeeDee Lamb.
Yep.
And then number 10 is Amon-Ra St. Brown.
And so, again, the same 10. Little different order because, again, there's like a definitive 10 essentially for me, in my opinion. So 6, I have Diggs. 7, I have Brown. Same way. 8, I personally have CeeDee Lamb. I think that Dak just force feeds him the ball. He's definitely going to get options there. 9, I have Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think that again, going to get force fed the ball, and he's just so talented with the ball in his hands. And then 10, I have Garrett Wilson. I think you're going to see mini Devontae Adams style. I think Garrett Wilson's touchdowns could go up for sure. I mean, last year he put up over 1,000, put up 1,100, and that was with the likes of Zach Wilson, and I can't even think of the other guys. Oh, what the hell is this? Mike White. So yeah, and 1,104 touchdowns with that. That's 1,410 touchdowns with Rodgers. So I think Garrett Wilson's gonna have a great year. But moving on, the 10 to 15. Unless you have something else.
Sidebar: apparently, Zach Wilson has looked pretty good. I've heard that he looks a lot better, and what I've heard is because like Aaron Rodgers has been like mentoring him a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It would be crazy if in a couple years Zach Wilson takes over and he actually starts doing better.
That would have been perfect out of the get-go. Like,
oh, I know.
If you would have had, like, obviously I think Jordan Love's going to do better than what other probably people think. But Zach Wilson would have been a perfect person right behind Rodgers. Rodgers would have looked at him and like, you have like 95% of the arm talent that I do. Like, you can just, like, the platforms and things, you got like a lot of what I got. Let me show you how to quarterback. You can throw, but let me show you how to quarterback. and also, like, I understand I got like a smug demeanor, but I'm so good that I'm allowed to get away with it.
Right.
You don't do that. Like,
you need to earn that ability.
Guy, you don't. You get an MVP first, and then you can be semi-arrogant like that. Don't do that first.
If Zach Wilson and Jordan Love end up being good, I think people need to stop with the Aaron Rodgers is a good like leader.
Yeah, no, that's a real conversation. If Jordan Love is good, and then Zach Wilson, like in 2 years per se, Zach Wilson actually has like the Geno Smith kind of thing.
Yeah,
you can attribute that to Aaron Rodgers, definitely. So,
also, yeah. I know Aaron Rodgers doesn't talk to his family, but I think he needs to make sure that Zach Wilson doesn't get to his mom.
Oh, Wilson clan. That's a really good looking bunch of people. They really are.
It really is.
Shout out to the Wilsons, man. They're doing something right over there in New York. But what's your 10 to 15? Because now we're starting to get interesting.
11, I have Jalen Waddle.
Okay.
These next 3 guys are actually number 2 receivers on their teams.
Yeah.
Those teams, they're just too
next,
good.
Same 3 is the next. Okay.
So I have Jalen Waddle at 11 just because he gets more catches than these other guys.
Yep.
And he can, just like his teammate, Tyreek Hill, he can take the top off whenever.
Of course.
12 is T. Higgins.
Yep.
And 13 is Devonta Smith.
Yep. Yeah,
those 3 guys, they're just so good.
They're number ones. So they're number ones in the number 2 system. Like, they could be number ones on, again, 90% of teams in the league. They just aren't number ones behind these guys.
And they still just ball out even as number 2s.
Yes.
Number 14, I have Calvin Ridley.
I've been waiting to talk about this man for hours.
Calvin Ridley. People forget that the last time he played a full season, he finished as a top 10 fantasy wide receiver.
Yep.
This man is so talented.
Yep.
And it wasn't like he's been hurt. He took time off. Was it like 2 years ago? He took the second half of the season off for mental purposes, and then the bullshit whole year suspension for the $1,500 bet he placed. So stupid.
On himself.
Like
it wasn't like he was like betting to lose. He was like, "Hey, we're gonna win. We'll put $1,500 down." J. Cole, as he said best, as I quote, "If I'm betting on myself, then I'm completely double down." He's not gonna just say like, "Hey, I'm gonna bet." Like, he's gonna be like, "Yo, let me put some money on it." That's so crazy. Like, to me, that's just so like, I get it, but I would have been cool with, like, I understand they have their no betting policy, blah blah blah, but like a 3-game suspension or a 4-game suspension, cool.
Not a
I would
whole
have been
damn
like,
season.
I would have been like, you know what? That's fine. I get like, I think it's still stupid, but like he broke a rule. You get punished for the rule. A
Right.
year, a whole season.
A year for $1,500. This man's not going to purposely lose a game, even if he bet against himself for $1,500.
For 1,500, like he makes more than that in a quarter. Like, what are we talking about? He clocks in at practice and walks away with more than 1,500. That's literally a practice day money.
He found that money in his couch.
Really, it was like, oh man, thanks for my practice fund. I'm just gonna turn today's Thursday walkthrough into a bet on our team.
And
Stupid.
The worst part too is he wasn't even playing when he made the bet. It was just on his team to win. Like that was the dumbest thing ever. But I think he has that same effect that like Diggs did and like AJ Brown did with Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. I think Trevor Lawrence has that blow up because he has Calvin Ridley. And I like Ridley a lot.
100% agree.
My number 15 is Chris Olave. I think super talented, just like Garrett Wilson. Yep. He has a better QB now in Derek Carr.
Yep.
I think he'll get a lot of catches. And this is half point PPR. So I think he'll get a bunch of catches. And Michael Thomas, who knows if that man will actually play? So Chris Olave is going to have to be the guy. They don't have really any other receiver besides him.
No.
He's going to get the ball. He's going to get a bunch of targets.
He absolutely will get the ball. He absolutely will. He got 119 targets last year, and he was 24% on like targeted. So basically, 1 out of every 4 throws was going to Chris Olave. I could see that easily happening again. How Hunter Renfrow kind of was for Derek Carr towards like the second half of 2 years ago, like where it was just every game Hunter Renfrow was getting like 10 to 12 targets. I could see the same style of like number statistics with Chris Olave.
I agree. And he's more athletic.
Yeah.
And I think he's just a better player.
Yeah, as I say, he's definitely a more versatile. Like obviously Hunter Renfrow is a star at what he does, which is in the slot. He's a star route runner and he's a star. He has star hands. So Chris Olave is just a better overall. He's got more to his game.
I agree.
A little more electric. But so my 11 through 13 are the same. Just actually no, the same order. Jalen Waddle 11, T Higgins 12, Devontae Smith 13. You've got Jalen Waddle, who was all of them were number ones for one season, and then they got a superstar at wide receiver. That put him to number 2. And Devontae had a pretty solid rookie season. I know a little up and down to begin, but he ended pretty strong. Jalen Waddle, when healthy, I think he started the year hurt, if I remember correctly. But I know he had a pretty good rookie season, and T Higgins had a good rookie campaign as well. Like all 3 of them did, and then they got superstar receivers on their roster, and
they just blew up even more.
They just blew up even more because now they are getting second corners on them. I didn't realize I had Calvin Ridley 14. 14, I have Calvin Ridley too because, again, I think people are so low on him. Like, it may take him a few games to adjust, but like as long as he's got a rapport with Trevor Lawrence and he's been able to practice all like off season and things, like he's not like he's been out of camp now for a while. Like after the games, he was able to meet with the team and go through every kind of off season workout. So he's had a regular off season with them, and he's been able to work with Trevor. And I just think that there's no chance he doesn't ball out. And again, there are certain players like Javonte Williams we mentioned. Like I think you could get him late. And if you can because a lot of people, especially people who are just doing the ESPN drafts online because they have him at 27 and people aren't even going to see his name. People go in with those or like, I got these kind of people I want, but you can get Calvin Ridley late. And I think he's going to be a star.
I think he's going to be a league winner.
Yeah, I really do.
if you get him as like your third, and maybe some leagues fourth receiver, depending on what you've picked,
Yeah.
I would be very happy if he's my third receiver.
Yeah,
I'd be
absolutely.
happy if he's my number two.
You
But
know,
the way
because
that
like,
people have him ranked, he might be my number three.
no, because like, here's the thing: if that's the case, you get, say, you have like the sixth pick per se, and you're like, okay, so I got the sixth pick and Bijan's there, so you take a running back, and then you just a regular snake draft, which means you got like pick like 15. Got pick 15. So then you got a wide receiver, and you can snag Amon Ra. You snag Amon Ra. Because you know Calvin Ridley's there, the third round, you can go and snag someone like maybe a Brees Hall if he's still there, because you have to think there's 16 receivers taken, there's 16 running backs taken. Brees Hall's around that range, or 15 round. Then you got to think Mahomes possibly, Josh Allen possibly, Travis Kelce obviously, Mark Andrews probably, George Kittle probably. So you could snag somebody like Brees Hall or Kenneth Walker to then get Calvin Ridley as your number two, and that four is dynastic. Like, that's crazy. So
Very.
like, you've got four people who have number one potential. I think Calvin Ridley could save and win a lot of leagues this year, personally.
Have you seen his route running videos in
I've
practice so
seen like
far?
one of them, but I haven't seen like a slew of them. But he's,
There's one where Zay Jones is in front of him, like does the route first,
yeah,
and Zay Jones almost runs like a 4.3,
yeah.
and then Calvin Ridley goes behind him, and you would think that Zay Jones ran like a 5-second 40. Like, Calvin Ridley's just so quick and so fast. I was like, holy shit! Like, you can tell that guy's still been working.
Yeah, no, he's still super young. Like, the thing about like running backs and receivers, like running backs translate anywhere because it's really mostly the same concepts that you're gonna have. Like, people have a lot of the same running concepts.
Yep.
And then wide receivers, obviously you just have to build a rapport with your quarterback, but it's really just, are you better than the guy across from you? Like, are you quicker? Are you faster? Are you stronger? And then the rapport with the quarterback comes in. It's like, I know Calvin's gonna be right here. But a lot of the time it's like, okay, 1-on-1 slant, 3rd and 7, that's a 2-step bop ball there. And he's so quick that you got. So I love Calvin. I absolutely love Calvin Ridley. And then my 15 is Amari Cooper. And with me thinking how good Deshaun Watson's going to be this year, I think Amari Cooper, another phenomenal route runner, I think he can definitely be someone who is really good this year. So I think Amari Cooper is going to be another guy who definitely could produce. Chris Olave, I do like, because I know you had him in that top 15, but I like Amari Cooper.
I do like Amari Cooper too. He's just a little bit lower.
Yep. And so you go 15 or 16 to 20.
16 to 20, I have Keenan Allen at 16.
You have Keenan Warner at 16.
He wishes.
I am there. I'm him.
Maybe when we're playing in the backyard. Keenan Allen's just one of those guys, always going to have 100+ catches when he's playing. Just super consistent. Not much else to really say about him. He's Keenan Allen.
No, he's just Keenan Allen. Like, when he's on the field, that's production. And especially in a half PPR league, if he gives you 17 games, that's 60 points. That's anywhere between 50 and 60 points just off receptions, because that's 100 to 120 catches.
And I think they drafted Quentin Johnston. He is pretty much Mike Williams.
Mm-hmm.
I think this year you're going to see Keenan Allen a bunch as the slot receiver. And I think that's where he's best. He can play the outside, but I think he shines in the slot, and he's going to play that a lot, and I think he's just going to have that year.
Yep.
17, I have Amari Cooper.
Okay.
18, I have DK Metcalf.
Yep.
DK was tough just because he doesn't get the catch volume that some of these other guys get, and when we're doing
Yeah.
half PPR.
Yeah.
But he is DK Metcalf. Super talented.
Of course.
19 is Debo Samuel.
Mm-hmm.
QB situation scares me a little bit.
Yeah, that's what scares you. Yeah.
That scares me. Debo is very talented. They will run him some.
Yep.
So I have him 19. And then 20, I have Chris Godwin.
PPR changes Chris Godwin's rank.
Chris Godwin missed time last year and still had a bunch of catches.
To be exact, 104 on 142 targets.
Which is crazy.
That is crazy. That
and
is
a guy like him who can get open like that, Baker, because he is a great route runner.
Yep.
As I think Baker will get him the ball.
Yeah. And he only started 13 games. He played in 15, but he only started in 13 games last year.
So I think when you're doing PPR, I got him 20.
Yeah, no, he's too consistent not to, and like Baker's going to be interesting because he's got a rapport with Mike. He's got a natural like built-in rapport with Mike Evans for playing in college with him, and then Baker throws the underneath ball pretty well, and that's where you got Chris Godwin. So a lot of Chris Godwin might end a lot of games 8 catches, 74 yards, but that's still 7.4 plus 4. That's still 11.4. And as a wide receiver 2 option or a wide receiver 3 in some cases, that is absolutely going to work. So I got my 16s DK, 2 athletic, 2 skilled. I think in Jigbu and Lockett, I think both of them are going to obviously take away a little bit, but also help a little bit too, because you're going to have that. You're going to have those stars on the side. So I got Metcalf 16. I got Debo 17. Quarterback situation makes him a little lower. The versatility between the run game and the pass game makes him special. 18, I got Keenan Allen. The injury concern for me brought him back a little, but if he's healthy, top 10 potential. 19, Chris Olave. I'm not the biggest fan of Derek Carr. I like him, don't love him. So I think that's going to be interesting. But again, who do you have to throw to, really? So Chris Olave is going to get targets. He's going to get receptions. It's just going to see if he can translate that to a lot of yards and touchdowns. And then 20, I got Christian Watson. So I like what I think that Jordan Love is going to be able to throw the ball and be fine. With Christian Watson, especially last year being a rookie who got put in the doghouse too, Jordan Love and Christian Watson definitely got a lot of reps in practice together. There's no doubt in my mind. Because obviously the receiving chart was Alan Lazard, Romeo Doubs, Randall Cobb, Christian Watson after week 1. That's how it started, because you saw Christian Watson was on the field. Obviously he played, but he wasn't a focal point until like halfway through the season at all. You got...
it's the one thing about Aaron Rodgers. You lose his trust, it's very hard to gain it back. Which he did gain it back, but
Shout
you
out
get
to
put
Dallas
in that
for
doghouse. Yeah.
But so I think Christian Watson with Jordan Love, they've got a lot of reps together. And I think that it's going to be... I think they fit. So I like Christian Watson this year. I definitely think if you can get him mid to late 4th, roughly around there, I think that's a really good pick. Mid to late 4th, 5th. You might be able to stretch that out to 6. It all depends on how your league drafts quarterbacks. Because if there is a run on everybody from Patrick Mahomes to Herbert, Lawrence, that's 7 guys. You get 5 tight ends. You get 20 backs. You get 18 receivers. That's already about 47-ish picks. So you can get him 5th round maybe. And that's definitely going to be a nice pick. So that's my 20. Then
He
I'm
is
gonna have.
Yep.
I was about to say, I want you to go afterwards once you're done. Go to 30, and then we're gonna give a
Okay.
couple nice a little sleeper picks that we think. But go on.
My
What were you gonna
21
say?
is Christian Watson.
Your 21 is Christian Watson. So man, I think you have him way underrated. I just don't think you're good enough on that.
Man, I guess I gotta move him up. Gonna have to
Yeah,
switch him.
I think you're. I think you just don't know what you're doing, personally.
Uh, I, Christian Watson's just big playability,
Yeah.
and very random stat that I don't think a lot of people know is he was number 1 in contested catch rate last year.
I did not know that at all.
Like his what is it, like passer rating, QB passer rating on contested catches was the highest because he like just caught everything.
Yes, because he went up and got it.
Even though like after week 1 you would think that he dropped everything.
Yeah, I know, you really would. I mean, he dropped one big ball. It was the first big ball he ever got, dropped it, and then changed his entire season and his entire career, honestly.
That changed, I think, the Packers' entire season.
It really
I think
did.
if he catches that on the very first drive, I think the first game of the season is totally different. And I think everything just changes.
Butterfly effect.
And I do think Jordan Love does good. Aaron Rodgers was below average last year. If you look at his stats, he was not very good. And
26
he did have his
10 picks, I think, something like that.
And he did have a broken thumb. But I think Jordan Love can do at least replicate what Rodgers did last year, and Christian Watson will do well.
Yeah.
22, I have Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah.
I liked what he did last year, and that was with Russell Wilson being complete garbage.
Yeah.
And I think this year, having a new scheme, better coaching, hopefully Wilson gets back in a better groove. I think Jeudy will do better.
Yep.
And I think at this point in time, I think he's Russell Wilson's number 1 target.
Yeah.
Mike Evans is 23. He might be the most consistent receiver in the NFL.
He he really is. I mean, obviously, like, you have Justin Jefferson, you have people like that who are like high, but I mean, he's done it for like almost a decade now.
Literally.
Just 1,000
For
every year.
As a whole body of work, he's just done it like the longest time. He gets 1,000 yards like every single year. Like, he's 20. I have him just a little bit lower because it's PPR and we don't fully know about the Buccaneers.
Yep.
But I do think he will still do his thing.
Yep.
Just maybe not as good as he has been the last couple of years.
Yeah.
24 is DJ Moore. I think I don't know if he does any better than he has been the last couple of years. But I think he does at least the same. I don't see a reason why. I don't think Justin Fields is any worse than the QBs he's had passing wise. I'm not sold on Fields passing, but I think that he can get him the ball at least the way that everyone else has gotten him the ball.
It's been 1,100 yards and 4 touchdowns every year pretty much for him, except for last year was 888 yards and 7 touchdowns, but he also missed some time. But like, every year it's 1,100, roughly 4 touchdowns. I don't see why he couldn't get that again.
I don't really think he does any better, but I don't think he does any worse. I think he stays pretty much where he is.
Over 1,000, between 4 and 7 touchdowns.
The touchdowns would be what might set him apart. But
yes,
25, I have DeAndre Hopkins.
Mm-hmm.
Why he went to Tennessee, I have no idea. I don't like the fit, like, at all. No idea who's going to be throwing him the ball, or if they can even get the ball to him. He should have went to New England.
I wanted him in New England, but then again, I wanted the Patriots. A lot of me wants the Patriots to be good because who wants to watch a bad product? But then there's part of me that realizes that they're not winning it this year. Like, I don't think they're winning a Super Bowl. So, suck. Get Caleb Williams. Suck. Move off of Mac. Keep Bailey Zappi just in case, because no one's going to say anything about him being a backup. and we'll go on a 20-year dynasty again. It's that easy. But we'll go on to be back into the spot where we like to be as one of the top AFC teams in the league. Okay, we got him, and then all we have to do else, number one receiver, get one, trade for one, figure it out. Like, hey, listen,
do whatever you got to do.
Hear me out. Sorry, I'm going on a Patriots little tangent. Hear me out. They suck. Caleb Williams, got him. T. Higgins, they can't pay him because they don't have enough. Even though Joe Burrow wants him to, Bengals are stingy. They don't pay him. We pay T. Higgins. That's it. That's all I ask for. You know what happens in? You got a solid number one who's young. You've got Caleb Williams, and you've got a 7th Super Bowl for the Patriots. Sorry. I was living in fantasy land for a second, but it's a realistic fantasy land, but my bad.
And you know they're gonna have a at least top 10 defense every year.
Yeah, I don't say anything about the defense. The only time I ever said anything about the defense was like the early 2010s, like right before 2014, because they used to give up so many yards. So watching games, and then they just let them only have them 3. So it was just a bend don't break defense. But I was always watching like these teams are just moving all week on every week. They just keep moving,
but they only allow
like 22 points,
yeah,
and they'd be like,
literally.
Okay. Like, okay, I guess, but like, God, does this feel stressful? It's like, oh man, the red zone defense is the best in the league, but everything else sucks. Sorry. Go on with DeAndre Hopkins at 25.
DeAndre, I think, still has it. A lot of people are like, oh, he doesn't have it anymore. I think he still has it.
Yeah.
Maybe not as much as he did before. But when he played last year with Kyler, he looked good.
Yeah.
He did his thing. I just don't know who's going to be throwing the ball. Is it going to be Ryan Tannehill? Is it going to be Will Levis? I have no idea. I don't know if I like either of those options.
I don't really.
So,
to be honest,
he's a guy that talent-wise he could end up like a top 10 receiver, but I don't like the fit. Yeah. And they're a run-first team.
Yeah, no.
26, I have Terry McLaurin, another guy that's pretty consistent. Not too sure about his quarterback.
We'll see what Sam Howell does.
Not too sure about that, but granted, I don't think his QBs have been the greatest, no matter who he's had. So
haven't been great.
27, I have Mike Williams, boomer bust guy. Always, maybe the biggest boomer bust guy. He'll get you a 20, or he's gonna get you a 1. You just never know.
I literally. Oh man, there are people. Everybody in fantasy has people they despise. They absolutely do. Mike Williams is one that I can't have him because he's too boomer bust. And Michael Thomas, I will never, and I repeat, never draft him again. Oh boy, when I drafted him first round after his big year, I still won it all. But I would have had Michael Thomas with Devontae, Justin Jefferson, and Stephon Diggs.
You still ended up winning, didn't you?
I still won. Go ahead.
You just would have won by more.
Would have blown out everybody. Because I ended up trading Michael Thomas to you for Nick Chubb because I was at the point where Michael Thomas was supposed to be coming back, and you had running backs
was like over.
Yeah, and you were.
I needed to make a move.
You needed to make a move because your team wasn't playing well at all. Nick Chubb, you had the assets at running back, and you're like, I need a wide receiver. And then Michael Thomas teed off on a teammate, and you're like, oh, this is sweet. He's a really cool guy.
He was fun. He was fun.
Keep going.
Then last year
I go on again.
We're not even on Michael Thomas, but like last year, even Michael Thomas, when he did play for like 2 games, he was good.
It was great.
It's just
great.
I don't think I really question if he loves football. Like, I don't think he likes football.
I don't know if he likes football at all, but you know what I can tell you he does like? He likes being 16 for 171 and 3 touchdowns in the 2 games he played.
Right?
Great. Just didn't play.
Just didn't play. The next guy I have is at 28 is Marquise Brown. I don't know about Kyler. If Kyler comes back week 1, I like Marquise Brown a lot. Last year before Hopkins came back, Marquise Brown looked really, really good.
Yep.
Whether I don't know if Kyler comes back early or not, but I do like Marquise Brown. I think he's really talented.
Mm-hmm.
So he's 28. 29 and 30 is Deontay Johnson and George Pickens. One of those guys is going to have a good, I think will have like a really good season. I think both potentially could be really good. I just don't know who's going to do better. Deontay Johnson gets more targets and catches, but George Pickens had more yards and touchdowns.
Yes.
So I have no idea. That's why I have them back to back. I have Johnson ranked 1 ahead just because of the amount of catches that he gets.
Mm-hmm. So I have them at 29 and 31. So like I have this kind of same kind of thing there. But going through, I'll go through my 21 to 30, and then we'll go 30 to 35. And then if you want to mention anybody else that's like kind of important past that, we will. But again, like these lists, we'll post a top 50 for the running back. We'll post a top 60 for the wide receivers on a list so you guys can see everything there. We'll go over some tight ends, defense, kickers, and then a couple hypothetical draft draft things. But again, to go through 21, I got D-Hop. I don't know why he went there, but he's played with bad quarterbacks his entire career, and he showed that he can put up stats. I don't think he's done. I don't think he's like cooked by any means. So I still think he'll manage to get his 1,000. He'll manage to get his like 8 touchdowns. I think he'll be a useful person, but I just don't think he's back. He's not going to be D-Hop, just because of the situation. 22, I got Chris Godwin. Everything we said before, there's just too many catches, man. He just catches the ball too many times, and he gets thrown it too many times. We'll see if Baker, since it's not Tom who loves that underneath route and loves that throw, we'll see if Baker is going to target him just as much, but the talent's there and the catches are there. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how Baker uses him. 23, Jerry Jeudy, thinking of roughly the same spot as you had him. Number 1 there, Russell Wilson trusts him. Reminds him semi of Tyler Lockett, who Russell Wilson trusted a lot. So this is that Russell Wilson's kind of guy who he can kind of put it over the top to, but is this a speedy guy who can get open? 24, Scary Terry. Number 1 there, Sam Howell makes him less appealing. He's a guy who could be around that Keenan Allen, Chris Olave kind of territory with a quarterback who we even remotely liked. Rather than Sam Howell, I don't have any clue how that's going to go. If Sam Howell proves to be good, then maybe Terry can get into that top 20 range. 25, I got Mike Williams. Boomer bust guy. Last year it was more boom than bust, and he had a couple games where it was actually just like pretty solid Mike, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. I didn't even know he had it in him. So
he just missed time. He just
missed time, but then obviously, he had the games where it was 1 catch for 7 yards. You love those games from him. I love him, especially it's only when you need it to. Like you're gonna win by 20, so Mike's gonna put up 10 for $142 and 2 touchdowns. You need it. It's Monday night. You're down 10. You're like, I just need a big Mike Williams game.
I think too that's why like the top receivers is just so important now. They're just consistent week in and week out, but as you get lower, they'll end the season with still like Mike Williams will end the season with over 1,000 yards and maybe like 8 touchdowns, but it doesn't come consistently.
No.
So it's so hard in fantasy football. Like you're gonna win those games when he does well, but you're gonna lose when he doesn't.
Yes, there's gonna be a lot of people over 1,000. but it's just like the people over 1,400 is what you need because that's the consistent one. Like now with running back, it used to be that way with running backs. Like you had to get the guy who's going to do, but like now running backs wise, like after the top 7 or 8, which are like important, but even then, like the difference, like you have Ramondre, Tony Pollard, Aaron Jones, like all of the guys that we went through already, like all of them are weak. You can find replacements for. Like even Dameon Pierce can still get you 9 a week. Like so you could just, it's just not going to be the 15, but they're still going to be more consistent. As in where your wide receivers on the other hand, it's not impossible for Mike Evans is my next one at 26. It's not impossible for him to go 3 catches for 33 yards. I had him last year. He did that quite often. But then towards the end of the season, he had those big games with Tom. But so it's not crazy for him to do that, but it's less you expect Dameon Pierce not to go 14 carries for 32 yards. Like you expect him at least to get like 16 for 60, and you can deal with that as much. Tyler Lockett's my 27. I think that he's still going to be a very good option for them. He's one of the guys that we just never talked about, but again, 1,000 yards last season, 9 touchdowns.
He's
He's
actually finished higher than DK Metcalf like the last 2 years.
Fantasy. But you always will go Metcalf higher because of the fact. But the last 4 years of his career, I'll go off real quick. 82 catches, 1,057, 8 touchdowns. 100 catches, 1,054, 10 touchdowns. 73, 1,175, 8 touchdowns. 84 catches, 1,000 yards, about 9 touchdowns. It's just 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns every season. Like it comes a little boom or bust, which is why you kind of veer away from him sometimes. It feels, but like it's too consistent. Like he's just like if you have Tyler Lockett, you've got a good wide receiver, lower 2 to flex, a high flex. And
I just have him a little lower just for the fact that like someone is going to have to lose targets.
Yes.
Because Jackson Smith-Njigba is really good.
Yes.
So I assume it's going to be him, but you never know. I could be totally wrong. Maybe I should have Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf switched. But I think
there's a world where that's a thing. Like there's a world where that's a thing. Tyler Lockett does ball out, but again, if you're going to go with a guy, you're the 6'4", 230 jacked guy who runs 4.3. You just naturally go towards that athlete. It's hard to say no, but then you've got this little speedy 5'11" guy over here who just knows how to play football. That's really the thing with Tyler. He just knows how to play football.
He knows how to get open.
Yeah, he knows how to get open, knows how to play football. I got Marquise Brown at 28. I think with Kyler, if Kyler does play a lot, I think he could even be up closer to 20s. It just all depends. Agree. Yeah, I was just say, all depends on how much Kyler plays. If he doesn't play, he could be lower. You can see a lot of James Conner and a little Marquise Brown. 29, I got George Pickens. As I said, 30, I got Christian Kirk. I'm just going to give my 31 right now because we were talking about it. I got Deontay Johnson again.
Christian Kirk is my 31.
So we have the same kind of 3. So, yeah, I think George Pickens and Deontay Johnson. I think George Pickens is going to be that one. I just think he's a little more explosive, and I think him and Pickett being rookies last year together, I don't know, there's something about being together in a class where I feel like you gotta merge a little bit.
Build a better rapport.
You build rapport because you're going through the same thing. Like it's the difference between 2 freshmen in high school and then like a freshman and a senior. Not that a freshman and a senior can't get along. You just naturally, like they just already they've done that already. As like 2 freshmen, it's like, okay, we're the same age. We have like the same exact interests. We have like the same exact experiences. Like, oh, how are you dealing with this rookie thing? How did you deal with it? Rather than how did you deal with it? It's like, how are you? So it kind of feels a little bit little things. Not that it matters. You could have the greatest rapport with someone who's 36 and you're 22. So it doesn't matter. It's just I feel you naturally build those connections a little easier with the younger people and people of your age. So that's that.
Pickens is a guy who can just go up and get like any catch.
Yes, he can go up and just go get whatever he wants to. All right, I know you gave your 31. Go through and give your up until like 35, and then after that we'll post the rest.
All right. So 31 was Kirk.
Yep.
Christian Kirk actually surprised me a lot last year.
He balled out.
I was
Zay
not.
Jones also balled out last year too.
He did.
Low-key.
Even Evan Ingram had a better year than he's had in the past. Like,
yeah,
he was not looking too hot at the end of his Giants. But
no, not at all.
No. Christian Kirk, I was like, there's no way he can be a number one.
Mm-hmm.
He just did not show it in Arizona. He proved me wrong, and I think this year being a number 2 again with Ridley,
perfect.
I think it's perfect. 32, I have Drake London.
Yeah.
The QB situation scares me. I'm not too high on Desmond Ridder, but Drake London looked really good last year, and Marcus Mariota was not the greatest.
He also, fun fact with Drake London, like 29% of the targets went to him. So like he was heavily targeted. You have to think you also had Kyle Pitts, and then you had Cordero Patterson, plus you had so he was targeted heavy, which is kind of so like he's.
And I don't
get
think
his
that
looks.
changes.
No, I don't think it. I mean, it might go to 27 because you have Kyle Pitts getting a little bit more targets because last year he was cheek. He was cheeky cheek, but
33, I have Michael Pittman.
Mm-hmm.
He was hard to rank.
Yeah.
I'm not too high on him.
No.
Who was it, Matt Ryan last year?
He had Matt Ryan, and then he had Sam Ellinger, and then it went back to Matt Ryan.
And he still did put up pretty good stats last year. But I don't know if Anthony Richardson can get him the ball consistently.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been a big Michael Pittman fan, so he's 33.
Yeah.
34, I have Brandon Ayuk. I think
he had a low-key good year last year.
He did. I think in terms of being an actual wide receiver, I think he might be a better wide receiver than Deebo Samuel. When it comes to being an actual wide receiver, Deebo Samuel with his running ability.
And Deebo, the thing with Deebo is Deebo's a better I'm fine with that because you could say Kirk Cousins is a better quarterback than Lamar if you're talking like dropping back, traditional reading, like going through your reads, throwing the ball, things like that. Kirk Cousins is maybe better at that process. Lamar's just a better football player. Not that he's a bad quarterback, because obviously I have a lot of love for Lamar, but he's just a better football player than Kirk Cousins. He can run, he can do all. He's a better football player. Deebo's a better just football player, but I could see what you're saying, like route. I think
he's just a better, route running and all that stuff.
Yeah,
I like him a lot. It's just again QB situation. I don't know. It looked like one he played, like Brock Purdy looked like he liked Ayuk.
Yeah.
And then 35, I have Tyler Lockett.
Yeah. And again, you explain that someone's got to take a dip when you have something talented coming in. So, yeah. My 31's Deontay Johnson, as I said. My 32's DJ Moore. I just don't know if I fully trust Justin Fields in the throwing. We'll see. 33 is Michael Pittman for me as well. I don't love the situation for him, but 800 to 900 yards, 5-ish touchdowns. I think good flex, week-to-week flex. 12-man league, I think is a solid flex, but good week-to-week if you find a matchup that you like or injured corners, kind of things like that, where he could capitalize off that. Drake London's my 34 too. And I just think the targets are there. I don't love the quarterback, but I think the targets are going to be there. I think there's too many balls going to go his way that he can't be terrible. It's kind of just it's mathematics at that point. And then 5, I got Dotson. I think Dotson's going to have a good season. Again, it really comes, he's electric with the ball. It just comes down to, again, Sam Howell. A lot of these guys who are lower are because they're second or third guys, or it's a quarterback situation. So it's gonna be very interesting. I have Ayuk at 37, so a little lower than you, but it's gonna be very interesting. And we'll post like the 30s to 40s is semi interesting, but we'll definitely post the list there. We're gonna semi breeze through ish tight ends, defenses, and then kickers, and then we'll get into draft strategy. So you start there with tight ends. You can give me just your top 10, because after 10 I could give a damn less about 10. We'll figure it out. Like, you've had to kind of fill it in, but like after 10 it's kind of just like you get a guy.
Who do you like best?
Yeah, it's like who do you think's gonna catch 4 balls today or get a touchdown?
Number 1, obviously, Travis Kelce. I think
there is not a more sure number 1. There is not a more sure number 1, more sure than Mahomes, than Jefferson. Not a more sure one.
Maybe kicker could be more for sure.
I was gonna say Tucker's one.
but Tucker is just that guy.
Tucker's that guy, but even then, it's like Kelsey's one. Period.
Yeah.
End of story. Move on. The same way when like Gronk is like in 16s, like Gronk, 1. Period. We move on. Go on now.
So Kelsey's my number 1. Number 2 is Mark Andrews.
Yep.
Number 3, I still have George Kittle. Number 3. I know some people have him lower, but he still finished as the number 2 tight end last year.
Yeah.
And it's just he was inconsistent at times, but he finished the year hot, and I think that will help him as long as Purdy's the QB.
It's that touch. He had 11 touchdowns last year, so that changed the entire game for him.
Number 4, I have TJ Hawkinson.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to throw the ball.
Yeah.
Number 5, I have Kyle Pitts.
Mm-hmm.
Pitts does scare. I drafted him last year. He does scare me, but I think he's just so talented. The Atlanta Falcons would be so stupid to not get this man the fucking ball.
Yeah. They
need to get him the ball.
Yeah. Get him the damn ball.
Get him the damn ball.
Get him the damn ball. This is Kyle Pitts. Like, throw it to him. He's a tank.
Number 6, I have Darren Waller.
Yep.
Mega talented. Don't trust Daniel Jones.
Yep.
Not much more needs to be said about Daniel Jones.
There's really not much more to it.
Number 7, I have Dallas Goedert.
Yep.
Number 8, I have Evan Ingram.
Yes, I like him this year a lot.
Number 9, I have Pat Freiermuth.
Mm-hmm.
And then number 10, I have Tyler Higbee.
Okay.
Tyler Higbee had 72 catches last year.
Yeah, Higbee's nice.
I put him there just because I think if Stafford stays healthy, he's gonna do well again.
Just out of curiosity, who are your 11 and 12?
I was gonna tell you anyway, because I think 11 is a very interesting guy. I think Dalton Schultz.
Yes.
Is very interesting. Being on Houston, they don't have great receivers.
Nico Collins is year 1.
Nico Collins. I do like John Mechie. He's a receiver
Mechie's interesting, yeah.
But I think Dalton Schultz is going to be used a lot. He's going to be the safety blanket. I think CJ Stroud is going to use him.
Yep.
And I think he's going to have to.
Yep.
And number 12 is Dalton Kincaid. I think, from what I've heard, Josh Allen has liked him a lot.
Uh-huh.
The guy is super, super talented. Mm-hmm. I think he could do big things in Buffalo.
Listen, I have no idea where to rank this guy. I have him. I'm gonna just say right now, I don't even hate it. I have him at 23 because I have no idea where to put him. I
No,
had Dawson Knox
it
at
was
7.
tough.
I had Dawson Knox at 17, but like I think Dalton Kincaid should be that. I don't think you take a tight end that high and just like play around with it. So like I think that he could be there for sure. I just don't have him there right now. But that's something that he's someone that by week 2 I would maybe move up already to there. I'd have to see like hear what they're saying, see how they play him literally 1 week and be like, okay, yeah, that's gonna switch.
I mean, it was tough. I had him as low as like 19 at one point.
Yeah, I had him
And
as
then I
high as
moved him
13 at one point, and I was like, well, Dawson Knox
It's
is
just
still
so hard. I just think that they got to. Like they're
there.
gonna use him,
Mm-hmm.
and as long as he's healthy. And
Should be.
I'm pretty sure the other day, Sean McDermott said that they're gonna do a lot of 2 tight end sets.
Yeah. Yeah, I could. I mean, I would too. Okay, so my number 1's Travis Kelce. Duh. My number 2 is Mark Andrews. My number 3 is TJ Hawkinson. I think that the way they're going to throw the ball, that TJ is going to do a little bit better than I almost said Garrett Kittle, than George Kittle and Kyle Pitts. I actually have Kyle Pitts 4. I think Kyle Pitts is going to be I think he's going to have a comeback season. I think Kyle Pitts is going to show why he was one of the most talented pass catchers we've seen in the last like 5 years coming out. Like people were talking about him like this guy is the next guy. Then 5, I got George Kittle. And I got George Kittle at 5, even though he could be 2. It's really specifically because I think they're going to use him as a blocker more so because a lot of last year when Trent Williams went down, they used him a lot as a blocker because he is the best blocking tight end in the league. He's kind of a cheat code. He's a 6 lineman. So I could see them using him a lot as a blocker, which takes him out of the passing game as much, which during his like little lull, you could see that was kind of more what they did. So it's just going to be all interest. It's going to be see how the protection holds up for the 49ers without him. If it holds up fine, then George Kittle could be number 2 again. I got Dallas Goedert at 6. I got Darren Waller at 7. I think Darren Waller, again, uber talented. Daniel Jones, don't trust him to throw to my mom. So Daniel Jones at 7. I'm making him sound so much. Or I mean, Daniel Jones. Darren Waller at 7. I'm making Daniel Jones sound so bad, even though he's really not that bad.
Just don't trust him to be able to run a full length of the field.
No, he's gonna fall he's gonna fall like the 10. Actually, I lied. I just forgot I switched it last minute. I have Pat Freiermuth at 7 and Darren Waller at 8. I just don't trust. Yeah, Freiermuth is just 63 catches last year, 732 yards. He's just a third down guy. That's gonna just be him. I got Evan Ingram at 9. If they didn't have Calvin Ridley, he would be closer to 5. But I think the addition of Calvin Ridley is going to have to catches are going to have to come from somewhere. So he had 98 targets last year. I can see that more being 82.
I totally agree with that.
It's 82, 61 catches instead of his 766. Put that at 600 with 4 touchdowns. Still a really good tight end season, especially as the third, fourth option. Just there's a one football. There's not that many. There's 70 plays. You can't get it on every play. So I at 10 actually have David Njoku. I think he's going to be interesting with Deshaun Watson this year. 11 I have Schultz. In 12 I have Higbee. Higbee threw me off last year when I saw that he had 108 targets. I was like, oh
yeah.
God. No, like it's like Higbee easily is top 7. Where I think Kelsey's in a league by himself. I think Mark Andrews, Hawkinson, Pitts, and Kittle for me are in that next one. I think I'd have Goddard and Waller in the next one. Freiermuth to Higbee. I think you could swap them. Like if you told me Tyler Higbee was 7, I'd be like, okay, I see it. Like that kind of thing. I could see it all. So I definitely don't hate on that at all. But you having Higbee a little higher than me, but
David
that's my tight end.
Njoku, I did have him at like 10 at one point. I just dropped him down because he's another guy that doesn't stay healthy.
You know, he gets injured every. He's so talented when he's playing, though. Like,
He is, and he really showed it this year.
Yeah,
too.
true
Just
athlete.
Another guy I like is Zach Ertz.
Yeah, I feel like other people I've seen have had him like in the 20s.
He's my 14.
He's my 15. Like I think he showed when Kyler was healthy. Rather, he showed to be Kyler's kind of like go-to third down guy. So I think that he could be that again. I don't see why he couldn't get you 50 catches and 500 yards, which as a tight end, that's going to be solid play. That's top 15.
I think there's 3 rookie tight ends to keep an eye on.
Yep.
Later in the draft, maybe, more likely in free agency. Michael Mayer for the Raiders.
Yep.
I think they're gonna use a tight end there. Jimmy G likes tight ends. Josh McDaniels has always liked tight ends. Yes. Michael Mayer, I think Michael Mayer was tough because I think he's more NFL ready than Dalton Kincaid, but Kincaid is on the better team.
Yeah.
But I like Mayer. The next guy is Luke Musgrave for the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
I think he could be really good. Jordan Love has done really well with him in practice so far. Super talented. And then Sam Laporta for the Lions.
Yeah.
Those 3 guys are going to be starters. And I think that they could be something to look at during the season.
Interesting. I like it. One guy that I would say is interesting to look at during the season is Irv Smith. Went to Cincinnati. I think that Irv Smith, he's talented. He was playing pretty decent last year, and then he got injured. Like right before he got injured, he had a couple good games, and then obviously they got T.J. Hawkinson. They're not going to need him anymore. So I think Irv Smith could fill a lot of what Hayden Hurst filled in Cincinnati. Then I also think when you're talking Hayden Hurst, I think him being in Carolina is another person who is interesting because they really don't have much for receiving options, and I could see Bryce Young finding Hayden Hurst options. So another couple tight ends that I feel like could be pretty interesting. And then last but not least, I mentioned it a little earlier, Hunter Henry's had a good camp so far. It looks like Hunter Henry possibly could be another guy.
I was going to ask you that because Mike Gesicki is there.
Yeah, so that's kind of what the depth chart said before camp, and now camp's gone on already, and Hunter Henry is the one. And I've heard like multiple days where it's like he's been the target for Mac and Bailey. Like he's been the guy there. So I think Hunter Henry can try to round back into that late Chargers form where he was actually borderline top 10, hopefully.
That would help him a lot.
Yeah. So defenses, they're defenses. You know who's good, who's bad. I want you to give me 3 defenses that are not particularly like top type 4 that you think could be very interesting this year. Or going through a couple, or like 1 or 2, even so, just like defense or a couple that you find are going to be interesting this year.
I'm going to start out with the Packers.
Of course.
I think adding Lucas Van Ness, the rookie, that adds a lot more depth, gives Kenny Clark, he can play edge plus interior defensive line. I think this year he'll play a lot of interior and with Kenny Clark, and then they have Devontae Wyatt, who didn't play a whole lot last year, but when he did play, he looked really good. I think they finally have 2 guys next to Kenny Clark in the middle that will create more pressure and help the run. And then you got, I think, the second best corner in the league in Jair Alexander. Eric Stokes is coming back from injury. Rashawn Gary is coming back from injury. I think they finally get that defense going. and I think they're going to end up being a top 10 defense.
Okay. I don't hate it. I really don't hate it.
Mm.
I'm gonna give one back at you, and then you can give me one more afterwards. The Houston Texans. I'm a fan. I really am a fan. So the Houston Texans last year, to probably everyone's surprise, was tied for the 14th ranked defense in fantasy and was 2 points out from being the 9th defense in fantasy. Why were they? Because they actually late in season they played teams close. They just didn't win because they have no offense. They couldn't score. But they have defensive pieces. They just got Will Anderson. They have Sheldon Rankins, Christian Kirksey, Denzel Perryman. They've got Shaquille Griffin. They've got Derek Stingley. Like they've got their defense is actually young and talented. I think they play the AFC South. That means they have 4 games against they have games against the Titans. They have games against the Colts. That means they have 4 games against them.
Most likely playing 2 rookie QBs.
Playing 2 rookie QBs. I understand that they're apt to get 200 yards on them by Derrick Henry because he's done that 7 of the last 8 times he's played them. But otherwise, they're playing those teams. And I just think that the Texans, I mean, obviously they're playing a bad schedule this year. They play the NFC South. So they play the worst division in the NFC too. So like they have the opportunity, I think, to be borderline top 10, especially if Will Anderson is what he like translates how he was in college to the pros. I think they could be, I mean, they were borderline top 10 last year, 2 points out of 9. I think they could be that again, where you're like, wait, the Texans were? I think they could be very interesting.
I agree.
I like them. I do like them.
I've heard.
Do you have another defense at all you want to throw out? If you don't, that's fine. They're defenses, but I'm curious.
I had the Dolphins defense really high. I still do think I still do think they're going to end up being a top 10 defense, but I had them number 3.
Well, yeah,
but with losing Jalen Ramsey until probably like at least December,
yeah,
that's going to change things. But I think that the defensive coordinator they got is just so good that their defense is going to turn it back to like when Flores was there, be similar to that. So
absolutely.
they were going to be 1, but I think they're a little dropped down because Jalen Ramsey, like that definitely hurts.
Oh, absolutely. That definitely hurts. And then another one who it's not really a sleeper defense, but I think it's a defense that will finally put it together is the Commanders. I do think their defense finally, they've had the front of all fronts for years, and then there's like Chase Young misses time and other people miss time. Like, it's just they've got everything they need up front, and that up front is going to help them in the secondary. It's just how will their linebackers be playing throughout the entire season is what they're really going to come down to, because their linebacker play is solid. But I mean, David Mayo, Cody Barton, Jermaine Davis, like they're okay. But they do have Kendall Fuller. Like, so it's gonna be just interesting to see how they do defensively. I mean, in the secondary, kind of this back half, but their front's nasty, and their front's gonna remain nasty. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Okay. I don't really care about kickers. No one cares about kickers. Justin Tucker's the answer. Evan McPherson's an answer. Harrison Butker's an answer. Then whatever Young Hoku's an answer. Then whatever team scores a bunch of points is the answer. Find a team that's going to go score a bunch of points afterwards, and they're going to at least get you extra points, at least get you 5. And then you go from there. Unless you have a kicker you want to really like deep dive in, you can feel free.
Going through the kickers, most of them just averaged the same.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't get Justin Tucker, don't worry about it.
Yeah, really. It's like, okay, just don't.
Just get a kicker on a team where that team can move the ball.
Yeah, that's essentially that. Just get one that can get to the red zone quite often and get a bunch of opportunities. And so we're here. It's been a long while. This has been 3 hours. We prepared for this to be 3 hours. There's a lot to talk about fantasy wise. What's your draft strategy going into the season? I mean, like, you don't have to, if you don't want to fully disclose it because you don't want the people in our league to hear this and hear our draft strategy. But what do you think? So, what do you think's a good draft strategy to have, rather? Let me word it that way.
I think if you're in half point PPR, the strategy would be if you can't get Eckler or McCaffrey, you go wide receiver in the first.
Okay.
Because I think those two guys with the
Does that include Kelsey? I know he's a tight end, but like, would you go Kelsey first
in the first round?
Yeah,
I'd go. I think I would consider Kelsey at the end of the first round.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would really consider going him in the end of the first. He did average 12 points a game, so he's like right up there with like some of the top receivers.
Personally, he's my fifth or sixth receiver. It's between him, Diggs, and AJ Brown.
That's pretty much last year when it comes to like averages per game. That's where he is. He averaged the same as the sixth best wide receiver.
I would have obviously Jefferson, Kupp, Chase, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams. Those 5 I'm taking before him. After that, if you told me you took Kelsey over Diggs and AJ Brown, okay, that's where I have him. So like, if you see like, because if you those 5, I don't think Devontae's gonna go first, even though I think he should. I don't think he will though. So if you have like the 9th pick, you might be able to flip Bijan and Devontae. It's crazy.
That is crazy.
That's crazy.
I think. Now, where would you draft Bijan?
7 or later. I would take Eckler before him. I would take McCaffrey before him. I would take Jefferson, Chase, Kupp, Tyreek Hill. Him and Adams would be the conversation. So 7 or later.
I think being in a few leagues, that there might be a league where I'd consider him at 5.
I could consider him Eckler, McCaffrey, Jefferson, Kupp, or Jefferson, Chase, depending on how you feel about it. I have Chase, you have Kupp, but so I could consider him at 5 or 6, but if I'm going into it, 7 or later is where like he has to be in thought.
I would agree with that.
Has to be in thought. And so, one of the biggest questions that always comes up: when do you take your first quarterback, or when do you take the quarterback?
I don't like drafting QBs really early. We have certain people in our league who will take Patrick Mahomes in the first round.
Shout out Joey.
Joey Wade. But
shout out Joey. Joey, I really hope you watch this, and we're shouting you out here. I really hope you watch this.
Hey, he did win the league this year.
In fairness, he did win. Listen, Joey went from being the laughingstock of the league to winning the league. Like, good for him. This is the same guy who, the year Peyton Manning died, traded me Antonio Brown in 2015. So peak Antonio Brown for Peyton Manning when I drafted Peyton Manning because I already had Tom Brady. So like I knew I was going to get a trade for him. So I had Tom already, and Tom was phenomenal that year. Plus I had Antonio Brown. Like, this is that guy. But shout out to Joey for winning the league. Congratulations, buddy.
The last like 3 or 4 years, he's actually been really good.
No, he really has, and he hasn't ruined it by trading his team away. So like, good for him too. He's learning.
Just took him a long time.
It just took him half a decade, but he's learning. But he's learning. He's learning not to trade. Good for
I
him.
think I would consider taking Mahomes probably the 3rd round.
I would say late second for me. I would.
Depending who's there, late second. Like if a guy slips,
yeah,
then I might like. You might be like, I gotta go him instead of Mahomes.
yeah.
But I think any time before late second is just a little early. But
Yeah, I do too. Okay, and so if it's not Mahomes, when do you take Allen? Since we both have Allen number 2, when do you take Allen?
I think Allen
early 4th.
Yeah, I think he goes pretty soon after. He's probably same round, 3rd round or 4th round. Definitely, I'd take him definitely in the 4th round if he's there.
As a late 3rd, early 4th is where I'm taking Allen. And then I would run on quarterback. If I get to the 4th round, that means I have either 2 receivers and a running back, 2 running backs and a receiver, throw in Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews, essentially. But like, that means I'm pretty solid all over, and then I can go into my sleeper bag. And so I'm probably taking. I would probably take definitely if Mahomes is there late 3rd. That's a wrap. Like of course, like I'm taking that. But if Allen's there, I personally like Burrow a little more. Like here's the thing with Allen. Allen has his inconsistent stretches. That
like when he
red.
fumbled the ball in the end zone against the Vikings.
Yeah, like Allen just has these like weird stretches of time where he's just like bad for a couple weeks, but then he makes it up because he'll have a 450 all-purpose yard, 4 touchdown game where it's like a 80 running with a touchdown, and you're like, oh, that 16-point game got made up for by this 55-point game. So it's like, hey, he's still putting up 35, but. So he's not boom or bust by any means. He just has those games where he has some clunkers, and you're like, okay, that. And I feel like Burrow has less of those games because I feel like also you don't expect as much out of Burrow, so he has less of those ones where he really disappoints you. So,
It's true.
But I agree. I got one before we head out. It's been over 3. These, I mean, obviously, and this is not going to be the last time we talk fantasy, but before we head out, I do have one more question for you. And that question is this. Would you take 2 running backs as your first 2 picks? Is that over with in the league?
I think it depends on how the leagues go. Like last year, the way our league went, and both the leagues you're in with me, his wide receivers went really fast.
Yeah.
So if you have like Jefferson, Kupp, Chase, like Hill, Adams, and then say like someone takes like Kelce for some reason, and then you have guys, I could go get like Bijan and like a Nick Chubb or Derrick Henry. Yeah. I think I would in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
If it goes pretty even, like 4 running backs and like 4 receivers and Kelsey's gone, then I'd probably go a wide receiver and a running back.
Yeah. Okay. Because that was your go-to. Was your 2 running back set. It was, I can get 2 running backs, and then at wide receiver, let me go get a number 1 out here, like a mid-tier number 1, and then let me go get a nice number 2, and we can work from there. Like, I think you have to be in the right situation. Like, again, as you were saying, if Bijan drops to 8, and then you have Bijan at 8, and then you were able to get, say, Saquon at 12. I'm doing that. That I can do, and then I can go get. I can go mess around and go get me some Chris Olave in the third, and then go get Mike Evans. Like and like I'll work with that. That's perfectly fine with me. But there has to
And
be like certain circumstances to where I'm looking for that. Like I'm looking for dual receiver. Like if you can tell me I can get AJ Brown, CD Lamb, all right, sign me up.
that's what
Sign
I
me
was
up.
gonna say. If in an ideal world, I would get like a Jamar Chase, hopefully at like pick 6 for some reason, and then turn around and get like a AJ Brown, like Garrett Wilson, CD
Yeah,
Lamb.
no, Jamar Chase and Garrett Wilson's my hope. Like I'm
If I
hopeful. Like I'm hopeful for like the sixth or seventh pick, where you go, Eckler, or Jefferson, Eckler, McCaffrey, Cup. Someone takes Tyreek Hill over him, and then someone takes Bijan. That's not a crazy thing to think. And then 7, you get Chase, and then you slip through Adams, Nick Chubb, then take another receiver, AJ Brown, Stephon Diggs, and then you snack him there. That's a hope. I would love to get something like that, but we'll
in a
see.
perfect draft,
Yeah,
I would like to do like what you said. Give me a Jamar Chase and a
yep,
Garrett Wilson.
yes,
Third round, give me Aaron Jones.
yeah. In a perfect world, yeah,
And then fourth round, give me my QB. Give me like a
yeah.
Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, whoever, like Lamar
Trevor
Jackson.
Lawrence, yeah, like get
I ain't waiting again. That fucked
no,
me
no,
over
no, no, no,
last
no.
year.
I think quarterbacks. There's too much of a premium on quarterbacks. Like if you're gonna wait, you can wait because I think the difference between Kirk Cousins, Kenny Pickett, all those guys, if that's what you're trying to do, is go like that route. Kyler Murray, like I think if you're trying to wait, then you can wait. But don't wait. Go get your guy. Like go get your the go get your guy. Quarterbacks are too important now. Because like before it used to be not many running quarterbacks. But now there's like a crop of like 8. Like Joe Burrow's one of those guys who's not in that crop, but really you got Mahomes who runs, who's still like that's 480 yards and 4 touchdowns last year. That's points. That's legitimate point. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields. Like even like it's hard. There's a lot of people. You've got go get your quarterback. But
That's why like a guy I actually like a lot is Lamar Jackson.
yes,
I think
yes.
adding Odell, adding Zay Flowers, I think
To Bateman playing a full season with Mark Andrews, Dobbins
hopefully
hopefully stays healthy. Like they have pieces now. Their offense is not a joke anymore.
I think he'll do better passing, and he's 10 points a game running.
Yeah,
When he's 10 points a game running, you know you're never going to have a really shitty game from him.
that's the allure of Fields. When you know Fields is 10 to 11 points rushing, give me 200 yards and 2 touchdowns, please.
If he can do that, he will be big time. I'm
And he'll be huge.
just not so sure about the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. That's the tough part. Is the Bears are a little wishy washy. But Austin, this was a blast. I'm really glad that we did this and got through it all. And we went through. It was a great time. And we went through full fantasy. We prepared for 3 hours because we wanted to go in depth, and we did that exactly. So I mentioned it a little earlier. Austin and I are going to be doing weekly fantasy like kind of updates. I know a lot of people out there obviously are going to give you daily fantasy. I'm not daily fantasy. You're going to give your league fantasy updates and things like that. We're going to touch on those too, but we do FanDuel as heavy as we possibly can do FanDuel. So we were wanting to also daily fantasy updates and possibly maybe like a sports bet, a couple here and there, to where maybe we talk value of players because this is what we spend a lot of our time doing, plus obviously doing the regular fantasy. But once the draft's over, it's really just making a few trades here and there, playing the waiver wire well, and being interested and being smart with that. So we'll talk waiver wire for sure because of course, but talking daily fantasy and really going into that because I don't feel a lot of people do that. But thank you, Austin. This was a blast.
It was a good time.
That was a blast. This was the Warner Brothas podcast minus half a brother, replaced with Austin, who's going to Terrence Crawford him someday here soon. Follow us on Instagram at the Warner Brothas Podcast. We're on TikTok where a lot of these fantasy football things are going to be posted. That's at the Warner Brothas Podcast. Find us really anywhere. YouTube channel, the Warner Brothas Podcast. You can find us anywhere like that. And with that being said, we're out.